Welcome, welcome to my new channel journey on breaking chains, true crime. We are going to have an honest, insightful conversation ongoing about the attitudes and behaviors that perpetuate crime and ABUSE. Can't say it too early in the stream. Now, I can't have a channel just to have a channel. Hey, Jen Lou, nice to see you. As most of you know, I can't have a channel just to have a channel. I really want my channel to make a positive contribution to the true crime community and to the world at large. So, um, I chose the chain theme for a specific reason, and it's meant to illustrate the fact that every single one of us, including myself, has either now or at some point in our lives, continuing and before, realized, hey, Delaney, that we were hampered by ideas and views that were either outright wrong or just didn't serve us. And so it we need to change them, and it's helped us to change them. It doesn't help us to stay rigid in those views. And when we change those views in micro levels and moving up to bigger levels, it can create a bigger change. And this particular channel is about how we as individuals can create that change in attitudes. So I want to thank you for being here. If you are here, it's because you responded to my other channel request to send me an email to get here, or you saw the lovely Jen Lou's post, or the lovely Alex Erickson post, or other people's posts. I have not directly linked this channel to my other channels for a variety of reasons. I do not want to mix the algorithms. So this will be a test of the algorithm. Hello, Navigator. Nice to see you. So this will be kind of a test of the algorithm to see where it goes on this topic. So for this initial stream, I'm choosing the topic of Gypsy Rose because, as a lot of you know, hey, yo, Snap Ginger, as a lot of you know, and I did a poll to check this out. Gypsy Rose, the convicted murderer of her mother, was released from prison a number of months ago. And ever since, her life has been on Front Street. And the world is kind of not the entire world, but large portions of the internet world are kind of coming undone over every little thing she does, right? And there's a reason that this is controversial. There's a reason that people are looking at this and going, "Gah!" But we're going to get into that a little bit further. I just want to give you a little bit more information about what you can expect on this stream and future streams, and what I mean by, thinking that doesn't serve us, and why I'm doing this. So here's an example. Here's an example of the type of thinking that doesn't serve us, okay? And this is a chain that I've broken from around my brain that used to be around my brain, okay? Black and white thinking. I used to be, and sometimes I still can be, a black and white thinker. It's either this or it's that. And I see this all over the place on social media and the internet, where people need to put people in categories. They are either, for instance, they are either an abuser or they're not abuser. And if you've categorized them as an abuser, they have to be an abuser at all times, and they have to be terrible. And if they've been categorized as a victim, they have to be a victim at all times. and they have to be seen as perfect and innocent and gentle and never, ever, ever an abuser. There is That's absolutely impossible. It's it's impossible. No one is perfect at all times. No one is abusive at all times. Okay. So abusers can be victims of abusers and vice versa. But somehow the vast majority of people in chats and in comments need to put people in a box, okay? And need to forever see them in that way. And it's hard to change. And that's just one major example of an idea that makes it impossible for victims of abuse to cry out, because there's too much risk of being painted as the abuser or of being bullied by the abuser's supporters and to be darvoed. Look up Darvo if you don't know what it is, too much to get into right now, by the abuser's supporters. And if the abuser, there's also power dynamics at play, right? If the abuser in the scenario is much more powerful, like P. Diddy, right? Is a much more powerful and popular person, in most cases, they're going to win in the court of popular opinion, therefore silencing the victim. And in that scenario, hey Solo, in that scenario, powerful abusers win and have no reason to believe they won't keep winning when we keep putting people in these boxes, right? And when we have no nuance around discerning who's a victim and who's the abuser. Just check in chat. Delaney, wait, Jen. Your kids made you watch. Oh, yeah. So I've only watched clips of life after lockout, of life after lockup. We're just gonna talk about the entire dynamic of even having a show, of her having a show, an entire reality show, and of her monetizing the death of her mother. The Not just the death of her mother, the cold-blooded murder of her mother. But continuing on, just what you can expect here, okay? Never fear. It will not always be doom and gloom on this channel, okay? I am just a naturally sarcastic and kind of snarky person. I'm not a mean person, but I am kind of snarky and sarcastic. And so it's just impossible for me to do a completely serious dry stream. I just am that way. So some streams will be intentionally less gloomy, such as the idea. There's one major chain I want to break around people's brains, and that is the idea that criminals are brilliant, that criminals are kind of like are all a bunch of Walter Whites running around, ex chemistry professors who are just trying to make their way in life and making meth, right? Ridiculous, right? No, most criminals are absolute freaking idiots. And I want to roast criminals, and I want to point that out. There's no better criminal roaster, in all honesty, than Jen Liu in the chat. And that's one of the inspirations of that idea of pointing out that criminals are absolute for the most part, are absolute fucking idiots. But society has this glamorized version of criminals in their minds. And, this whole Gypsy Rose scenario doesn't help that. Now, I'm not saying that the media is painting Gypsy Rose as a brilliant criminal, but they're certainly glamorizing her. They're certainly sensationalizing her. And there's sort of like a two-sided, two-coin media thing going on with her. We've got the mainstream media painting her like this reformed victim of Munchausen's, and we've got the social media side demonizing her, right? And there's little in between. And then we have her content creator, quote unquote, friends who are quite literally just also um raking in money on the death of Dee Dee Blanchard, the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard. So here's what you can expect on this channel. It could evolve as things go, but this is what I've set out to do. Okay, I want to couple true crime cases and news events with a destructive link to break in our minds that perpetuate crime and abuse. And this time it's Gypsy Rose and the TMZification of cold-blooded murder and all the micro links that go with that. Okay. And so I'll introduce some of the key players in the beginning of the stream, show you some content to bounce off of, and talk through the ideas that I think are keeping us shackled. And then I do really want to have an open conversation with people from around the community. I want to invite people from the chat onto the panel. I would love to have other creators come up. People are welcome to come up and talk as long as they are respectful. Okay, that's really all it is. So with that, let's get started. But please remember to thumbs up the stream and know that anyone is welcome here. I want to hear from you. Now, let's just review some of the players here, okay? Just so you all know. And I did a poll, and it looks like for the most part, some of you have mostly been following, but not totally. And a lot of us in this chat, not that there's very many of us here, that's okay. I love starting from scratch. Most of us came from, a lot of us came from Natasha Cooper's channel or chat, or at least we were hanging around that area uh, during a portion of time. And Natasha is sort of infamous for being connected to Gypsy Rose in many ways. And in fact, Natasha had Ken on her TikTok, on a TikTok live. A lot of us are very familiar with the Gypsy Rose case because of Natasha's involvement, and she would go over the Gypsy Rose case every once in a while when she was here on YouTube. But just to remind you of who the players are in this kind of post-conviction release scenario, there's Gypsy, before it all happened. Yeah, hanging around the back area. That's right, Delaney. Someone's in my back area. So there's Dee Dee Blanchard and there's Gypsy. And as you know, Dee Dee Blanchard was murdered, and it was as a result of Gypsy definitely being a victim of abuse by Dee Dee. Now, there's questions over what was the form of abuse. It actually says on Wikipedia, and it is largely believed, and this is what Gypsy will claim, is that she was a victim of Munchausen by proxy, which basically means that the mom one person makes another person sick to seek sympathy and support. Well, in this scenario, it was the mother making the daughter sick, having a number of illnesses. Yes, there are many questions, Solo. So the other scenario is that Dee Dee Blanchard was just pulling a major medical scam. She was basically it was a huge medical con. And she was able to use Gypsy Rose and put her through all kinds of medical procedures as a scam. Okay. Either way, Gypsy was the victim of abuse. Okay. There's no question about that. There's no question in my mind that Gypsy as a child suffered from abuse. Either scenario is abusive. Okay. To exploit your child in the conning scenario or to make your child sick for your own needs, either way is very abusive. Neither of those, and this is a cycle we need to break in our minds. Okay. Neither of those scenarios justifies Gypsy then contacting somebody via Facebook, a special needs young man, connecting with him romantically, luring him in, and then talking him into murdering her mother. That is not justified. And that's why she spent time in prison. Did she spend enough time in prison? That's not for me to decide, right? But now she's out. Okay. So that's what happened. We know for a fact that Gypsy Rose Blanchard um, was, by her definition, locked into her room, locked into this abuse by her mother, couldn't be free. The only connection to the outside world was, interestingly enough, social media, right? What is her connection, her main connection to the outside world now, right? It is social media. So, same here, Delaney. Same here. Yeah, that's what I'm saying is that it, Solo saying some of the medical stuff was legit. Agree. Um, what ha A lot of times what happens is something that starts out legit, then that thread continues to get pulled even if it isn't legit, right? So someone sees gets a has a legit issue. Because they have that legit issue, they were able to get some sympathy money, and they learn that that's a good way to get some money, so they continue to pull on that sympathy thread even if it's not real. Okay. So whether the motivation is Munchausen's or the motivation is money, it's still not the real motivation. Okay. Not it, it's not forthright, it's deceptive. It's all based on deception. So any way you look at it, Gypsy was raised in a world of deception. She was raised in a world where you get what you want by deceiving people. Okay. You get your sympathy by deceiving people. You get your earnings by deceiving people. Okay. That is the worldview she was raised in. And there's another way to say that. That is a criminal mindset. Okay. That is an absolute criminal mindset. So here, just to continue on the thread of who are the players. So then Gypsy, she does her time, she gets out, but while she's doing her time, she is contacted by this gentleman. Okay. And this gentleman is Ryan. I'm sorry, I forget his last name. As you can tell, I'm not deep, deep, deep into this case. But this is Ryan, her husband. And they were pen pals while she was in prison. And I was just listening to an interview with him, and he, I gotta say, COVID was Satan, you guys, because it was, oh, Anderson. Thank you, Jen Lu. I know Jen Lu knows a hell of a lot more about all of this than I do. If Jen Lu wants to come up on stream a little bit later after I get through some of this, you are more than welcome. In fact, maybe if you want, you could come up while I'm showing some of the clips, because some of them are very interesting. Anyway, so this is Ryan Anderson. He starts writing her during COVID. COVID was Satan. COVID caused so many people to do things that they normally wouldn't do. And now we're starting to see Now we're starting to see the what's the word I'm looking for? The fallout, the atomic fallout from all of that. So Gypsy gets out of prison. She immediately marries this guy. By that time, I don't know if in prison they had already signed the lifetime, life after lockup contract, or if they did it as immediately after they got out. But pretty much as soon they must have signed it while they were in prison because they were filming her as she was leaving with him, right? And so they film this entire season of Life After Lockup, and then one day she tells this guy Ryan that she's going to her parents, and bada bing bada boom, she says, I'm divorcing you. And bada bing bada boom, she's now with this new guy named Ken. And this new guy named Ken has apparently, as far as Gypsy says, but people are questioning this, and we're going to talk about why all this is. People are questioning whether she's actually pregnant. She recently announced that she is pregnant, and people are questioning whether this is real. And one of the reasons they're questioning whether Gypsy is really pregnant is because Gypsy is not a credible person. She has been, she's a documented, proven liar. And as we've talked about, she was raised really with a criminal mindset to be deceptive, to get what you want, right? But just for illustrative purposes, so we know who the who's are, this is Gypsy's dad and stepmom, and is that her half sister or stepsister, Jen Lu? They were married in prison. They agreed to both shows before she was released. My God. Okay. So that's just the setup. There was, as far as I can tell, Delaney, there was literally no time between both dudes. There was literally no time between both dudes. So now all of these people have become tabloid fodder. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. Half sister Amos, and she has a half brother Dylan too. Okay. So now you just do a real quick search, and on the name Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and all these people show up. All these people. And why? Why? Because Dee Dee Blanchard was murdered. Now, you could say, and another chain that I think we need to break our minds out of is how to assign accountability in situations. Okay. You could say, well, Dee Dee started all this by abusing Gypsy in the way that she did. Yep, you could say that. But again, that does not justify the ultimate act of murder. And yes, that started the scenario. But if Gypsy had not talked her boyfriend into committing the cold-blooded act of murder on her mother, we wouldn't know about this. None of us would be talking about this. Oh, half sister Mia. I thought Amos, hello Punksy. I thought Amos was kind of a weird name. I was like, wow, interesting name. Yeah, so I just think you know, we have to learn how to know where to assign blame. The act of abusing Gypsy in that way was horrific. I am sickened by the way children get treated, right? But you have to agree that the act of taking somebody's life is worse, right? It is worse. You know, ongoing lifelong childhood abuse is probably as close as you can get to as bad as murder. But murdering somebody is the ultimate act, okay? So we would not be sitting here if Gypsy had not made that decision. Now, Gypsy also, we have to remember, even though she had the appearance of a child, even though she sounds like a child, even though she has and I continue to believe she still has the brain of a child and the emotional development of a child. At the time this act was committed, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but at the time her mother was murdered, she was an adult, correct? Wasn't she 20? Please correct me if I'm wrong about that. But my understanding was that she was an adult by that time. So, um, we can't just say, "Oh, well, she was a child making a child's decision." We can't hold her responsible for, being a child. She was 23, almost 24 years old. There you go. So, now she probably had the developmental capacity, or, the emotional capacity of, a 12-year-old, but you must be held responsible for the actual biological age you are and for the act you commit at that age. Okay. And she was 23, almost 24. So it's not like she was an adult. There was no, so now what we have is an actual cold-blooded murderer who's been released from prison and has 10 million TikTok followers. Okay. 10 million TikTok followers. She has 55,000 YouTube subscribers and almost 600,000 Instagram followers. All right. So collectively, she has, something like 12 million followers across social media. Yeah. TikTok. That's her main game right now. Besides her reality shows, that's her main game is TikTok. And that's where she announced her, I'm not sure if I'm right about that, but she definitely posted her announcement of on TikTok. So this young lady, there's no other way we know her than by the murder of her child. I'm sorry, the murder of her mother. And she has turned herself into a media sensation on the back of her mother's murder. Okay? Yeah. That's what I was just correcting myself, Jen, because I noticed that on the TikTok where she posted it, it said, "See the official announcement on YouTube." That's why I was starting to back myself, reel myself back in. So there's that. Now, there there's something wrong with this, you all. What are the ideas behind this being okay? What are the ideas behind thank you, Jen. What are the ideas that lead to this? Now, of course, this is not the first time we're seeing anything like this. Of course. But this is our a current, very high profile, very dynamic, constantly changing example, because she has made herself infamously relevant not only in mainstream media but also on social media. And she befriended, quote unquote, befriended content creators who have one by one by one by one turned on her and started revealing all of her all of her dirty secrets, a la what content creators who are friends do. This is the game of social media, right? People on social media who are content creators, who are usually just there to make money on content. If they don't have any other content to talk about and they're just there to gossip and talk about whatever's going on the internet, they're going to become friends with other creators who have a lot of followers or a lot of notoriety, and they're friends for a while. They get information on them, they build trust, they um they either do a long troll or a short troll, and then eventually they have a falling out and all the dirt comes out on them. Well, that's what's happening with Gypsy Rose right now with her various friends. Um, yeah, I haven't watched that, but I heard them talking about that, Delaney, the Kardashians episode. So one of her old friends, somebody that apparently was, I guess Ken called Katie Joy from Without a Crystal Ball a quote unquote friend of the family, has now turned on Gypsy Rose and is just dishing dirt like there is no tomorrow. Okay. And I would submit that Without a Crystal Ball is one of these people that allow that perpetuate this idea that someone like Gypsy Rose can come out and monetize her mother's murder. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you this one particular clip from Katie Joy's live stream from the other day, where she says something rather ignorant, okay, that I'm going to point out. This is not super dramatic. This isn't like, oh my God. I'm going to point out something she's saying that I would say is really, really ignorant, okay? And you have to think, if this is the kind of conversation that Katie Joy was having all these years with Gypsy Rose, that's why Gypsy Rose gets to keep these charades going on. Or that's why Gypsy Rose continues to have these ideas, because someone who seems legit, in other areas of life, Katie Joy might seem rational and might seem to have good advice and might seem to have a good head on her shoulders. Apparently, Katie Joy's son also has a feeding issue with feeding tubes and stuff like that. So they connect on that level, right? But listen to what she's about to say, and I'll tell you why I have. Again, this isn't salacious. This is just an ignorant idea that I think that I want to pick through. Okay.
Hello.
Oh, damn. It didn't go to the timestamp. Asshole. Wait, let me get to the actual timestamp. Let me make sure. I thought I had it pulled up to the timestamp. Err, err. Okay, one moment. I'm gonna pull it up to where it was at the timestamp. Oh, I know why it wasn't because I saw it while it was live, and I don't know. Let's see. Let me see if I could find it this way. I think it might be here. It might be here.
And she's like, oh, okay, good. We can talk. She was livid.
Mhm.
Livid. Christy, Rod, and Chris and Vicky were livid that Gypsy was pregnant.
I would
Like-
be too.
Like
Rod specifically said he didn't want to be raising any grandbabies. And she's going to be in Mia's old bedroom with a bassinet.
They don't even think that Ken and Gypsy are going to last till the baby.
Oh?
Because Gypsy is so erratic.
Impulsive.
And erratic.
Well, why was
Yeah.
Gypsy sending positive pregnancy tests to Ryan?
To torture him.
Even so, when was she?
Yes.
Oh shit.
Zora got a positive pregnancy.
Well, that would be about right because
That isn't the clip. All right, I'm gonna have to move on to the next thing. I'm so sorry, you guys. That isn't it. It wasn't. It had to do with a behavior that she said that Gypsy had that it was a trauma response that she said that Gypsy had that she said, people with trauma don't do that, but it was off base. It was totally off base. I could see why someone would logically think that, but it's not accurate. It's not accurate across the board, and it's not accurate for every it's not an accurate way to describe how people would the dog leash story. Jen, can you come up here and help me? Because if you're available, if not, it's okay. But the dog leash story. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring up the actual stream, because I can't remember specifically what she said. And I wanted to bounce off of specifically what she said. If you remember specifically what she said or what the dog leash story is, then let me know. But okay, cool. Thank you, Jen. But as part of this whole drama unfolding, Gypsy's various friends have been making appearances on various channels. I'm not sure, Delaney. I'm not sure that's it. I don't think that's it. I don't know. I don't think that's it. But anyway, so the various content creator people that Gypsy has become friends with have been hosting panels and just having conversations about Gypsy. And sometimes what happens is, as these content creators are going around having conversations about Gypsy's boyfriend, baby daddy, shows up on panel, or other people show up on panel from her personal life. So recently on Sir Morbid's channel, there's Jen Lou. Hello there.
Hello. I'm sorry. I had to get to the computer because I still haven't gotten wireless earbuds for my iPhone because was a for Android user, and you don't need that kind of stuff. So I can't come up on my phone. So I have to go to the computer to do it. So sorry about that.
Nothing to be sorry for. You were very quick. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So okay, is it the dog leash story?
It is. If you wanted to find it,
okay,
go to the channel that you're on right now, and click more, click the transcript, and do it on a PC. It's Command F, and then type in dog leash, and you'll find the clip. I know exactly what you're talking about because she worded it very badly, but I also sort of understand why she said what she said. So click more.
Where's more?
Right there. Keep scrolling down. Scroll down.
This? Right
No. Scroll up.
Oh, here?
Yeah, in the description. Keep going a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, where it says more. Click right there. Now scroll down more.
Yeah.
And keep going until it should say that, until you see follow the transcript. That's all you got to do. And then Command F.
Okay.
And then after you're done, you're going to get a survey about how helpful my customer service and IT was. If you could do that for me, I would really appreciate it.
You are so funny. Dog leash. Okay.
It's right here. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. As soon as you said trauma response, I knew exactly what you were talking about. I'm also, let me just full disclaimer for the people in the chat and the people on the replay. I am equally as horrified that my brain retains this kind of information for all eternity as you are. I don't know why my brain does it, but it does. That and song lyrics and lines from movies. So there you go.
Oh my. Okay, let's play this.
All right.
They do it on the Jeep, and there's some apparently dog leashes, and Gypsy likes to be walked like a dog, and it's all kinds of stuff, right? And so Gypsy and they were doing it. And this was like literally less than a week after she left Ryan, hadn't even filed for divorce. Yeah. Zora says, she told me they boinked on the first meeting when she got out. Boinking. Yeah. We're going to call it boinking. Yeah. And she also says, Zora tells them that Gypsy is super into BDSM. And it's ironic that she would want to use a dog leash, you guys, because her biggest story about her mother and what her mom did to her allegedly involved a dog leash. Okay. And this was a story that Zora relayed to me that said, I'm starting to wonder if Gypsy's story about her mom and what her mom did to her is legit, because I don't know if you had something that happened to you that involved a leash. Would you really want to incorporate that into your life? Wouldn't you have something in your life that would make you like, no, like I can't be associated with that? It would
totally inaccurate. Absolutely, completely false what she just said. And Jen Lou, you are a miracle worker. I can't believe you just, I know exactly what you're talking about, because so thank you very much.
Oh,
you are an encyclopedia. So here's what she was basically just saying was that when there is an item of trauma that reminds you of your trauma, you wouldn't want that thing in your life anymore because it would remind you of trauma. right? Especially in sex.
Right.
And that's absolutely 1,000% incorrect, especially if you have not addressed your trauma. And I don't think there's any, I don't think there's any notion that Gypsy Rose has addressed her trauma in any way, shape, or form. So in fact, what usually happens, what really happens is you try to recreate the scenario again and again and again so that you can control it, so that you can solve it, so that you can figure out how to get beyond it. It's literal insanity. Okay. So, think about how, you grow up hating a parent and then you end up marrying somebody who's exactly like that parent. Right?
Right. That makes sense.
It's the same principle. It's not logical. It's not rational, but that's the issue with trauma and mental health and mental illness. There's nothing logical about it. So you can't apply logic to it. So then when you get in a scenario like this, where everybody's like, now we have to call all of Gypsy's claims into question, or we have to call all of, everything into question, or we have to say, oh, she wasn't really abused in that way, because why would she want to be BDSM'd later in life? Actually, I believe that many people are into BDSM because they were abused as children. Because abuse, hey, Alex, good to see you. Because as children, they were so abused, some of them learn to like it. Some of them learn to believe that they deserve it. Some of them like humility. And it's sick and it's twisted, but it just is what it is. And what we have to learn to understand is that some realities are sick and twisted, even if they're true, even if they make us uncomfortable, and even if we don't like them, that's the way it is. Does that make sense to you, Jen?
It makes sense to me, and I agree with you. What I would say to that is there are plenty of reasons to question that whole running away and the aftermath of the running away scenario put forth by Gypsy that have nothing to do with this story about BDSM or being walked around with a dog leash. There's plenty of other reasons why that specific story, and quite frankly, a lot of Gypsy stories should be questioned. It's
absolutely
difficult for me because I've been following this case a long time. I followed it before I knew who Natasha was.
Right.
That's how I found her.
Okay.
From a friend who actually was like, oh my God, you got to join this group. And I said, oh my God, no, I don't. She's nothing but drama. I should have, never mind. We'll leave it there. Anywho, that happened. So I've been following this for a very long time. And since it happened, and then when Gypsy sat down to do her very first documentary, which is Mommy, Dead and Dearest, the first thing that she says is, it's nice to finally get to be honest. I haven't been honest with anybody except my lawyers, not even them. And then she giggles. And I knew it was not it's not just what she said. It was the way that she said it. And I knew right then, this chick is full of crap. She is a lying liar face who tells lies.
Yeah.
But I watched. And over time, documents started to come out. And I would look at the documents and I would think, okay, does what I'm reading here, and what is Gypsy saying? And I would, I've softened my view on Gypsy quite a bit. I do acknowledge that she is a victim being raised to think that human beings are there to serve a purpose for you, be that financial, emotional, and that's all they are. They're there for you to use and dispose of when you're done using them, is an awful way to raise a child. It's horrible. Where I get stuck is the Munchausen syndrome by proxy label. First of all, you can't really diagnose a person who's deceased with that because they have to be interviewed and evaluated. One of the things that is common with true Munchausen syndrome by proxy is the making the child sick, not just lying and saying the child is sick, actually doing things to induce illnesses. That didn't happen. A lot of things, and this is my other issue. I will agree that human beings are not one thing or another all the time, right? We're not all good all the time or all bad all the time. Good people do bad things, bad people do good things. We are in a constant state of flux. We're multifaceted. That's how human beings work. So I don't think that it's right, or I don't agree with categorizing Gypsy as simply a victim. And if she's not a victim, then she has to be the villain. No, she can be both, and she is both all at the same time.
Yeah.
And what she does is she sets, as she's moved through the system and now she is out. And what Lifetime really illustrates, which is why I'm so I watch it, I do the recaps, and I poke fun because it's not my true crime channel. I didn't want it on the true crime channel. But really, if you take a look back at all the episodes, what you will see is a pattern of behavior from Gypsy where she puts people in places at different times and sets herself up to be a victim.
Right.
Although she's actually the perpetrator and manipulating the whole thing.
Right.
But that's part of it.
And in my view, now she's well old enough to know that she can change that.
Correct.
She can, these things can change. She can, she's old enough to know the right from wrong. That she's using people, that she's lying, that lying is not okay. She's old enough to witness the chaos that comes out of her lies. And she also has now, it seems, abundant resources to get help.
Yes. And that's another thing. So after she went on Dr. Phil offered to set it up because, let's be honest, our prison systems in the United States, we can't figure out whether we're going to be about punitive punishing people or we're going to rehabilitate people, because we're doing a poor job at both, frankly. Right. And so her options for therapy and rehabilitation in the prison system were limited. But Dr. Phil offered to work something out with the prison so that a therapist could come in with Gypsy. And do you know what her answer was?
What?
I don't need therapy. Ken is all I need. See, Ken, I don't know if you know this or not, Lynn, or maybe you do and you just didn't mention it, but Ken is a new old boyfriend.
Oh, I did not know that.
He is the ex that she was with in 2018, and they are 2017 or 20, I think it's 2018, but they broke up in 2019 or 2020, maybe at the beginning
were they together all in while she was in prison?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She went to prison in 2015.
Right.
So he met her while she was in prison. And they were also engaged.
Right. And then, right, because I do remember I was listening to the whole interview on Morbid's channel, and hello, Chatto. I listened to the whole interview, and there was the part where Morbid or people were asking about why did he initially leave her, and I thought that was about I thought that was like a breakup, and then they got back together with the pregnant. Have they broken up since she got out of prison? Did they?
No.
Okay, so it was just they got back together after she left Ryan. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. And then, gotcha. Someone
Which
sorry,
was also a mess as well, because it's if you don't know Gypsy and you don't know her history, especially as it pertains to Ken, you would think this is because this is how Gypsy sets it up. Gypsy still labors under the delusion that life is going to be a fairy tale, regardless of how many times she tries to make a fairy tale occur and get slapped in the face with reality. That's why they're fairy tales, because they're not real.
Very childlike.
But she could break that cycle if she wants to. And that's why I held out hope for Gypsy. I did. I said, she's going to get out. Let's see what she does.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat back and I watched and I saw what she's doing. And now I'm saying, like, bruh, I'm going to say something, because I wasn't before. I gave her an opportunity, and then now she's had her opportunity and she's acting a straight fool. And so I'm going to have to speak up on it. She can catch this smoke, Gypsy. You hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. So, Delaney says, can you explain the Dan guy? Was that hookup real? I don't know who Dan is. Do you know anything about the Dan?
Yes. I have wanted to know the situation with Dan all the way back to 2018. Nick's trial was 2018. Yeah, because his trial was the same part. His trial was going on when Chris Watts took the plea deal, and they interrupted his trial on long crime, and I was so upset about it.
Because that was 2018, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I was annoyed. Like, we could have played this later. I wanted to see this trial.
You have such a good memory.
Thank you. So I was annoyed. I usually remember shit that annoys me. So the state, because really what the state was really arguing is they had him dead to rights on premeditation. There's the multiple texts, etc. So that part of it they had, but what the defense was arguing is because he has Asperger's, at that time that's what it was called. Is he able to perform the necessary deliberation under the law? Does he understand that A, he has a choice, and B, the long range consequences of that choice? I would submit that he doesn't. Does that mean that he needs to be free? Hell no. He brutally murdered a woman. But is prison the right place for him? That I'm not so sure about. I do think that he has other, besides being on the spectrum, he has other issues going on that came out during his trial. Anyway, they played this interview that he did with a journalist while he was awaiting trial. And he spoke of an older man that controls Gypsy, that is still controlling her to this day. At that point, that's all I knew. That's the only thing I knew about him. Later, and I wanted to find out who he was. I had two friends who were part of the original Nick Go to John Freedom Project, who didn't want to see him free. What they wanted to see was him transferred to a mental health hospital where he could be actually get help, because prison, I think he's gonna anyway. So they asked him who he was talking about, and that's the first time that we heard the name Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Dan is an older gentleman. He is, I think, Gypsy was 19 at the time. I think Dan was maybe 30, somewhere in there, late 20s, maybe early 30s, who she met at VisionCon. And to Gypsy, their relationship was very real. Gypsy was very fixated on Dan.
Mm-hmm.
So when she says things like, Nick is the first person I told that I could walk, that's a lie. Dan was the first person. And Dee Dee promptly shows up. But when Gypsy left to go run away, which it's not really running away if you're 19 years old, it's leaving the house, but whatever. When she left the house to be with Dan, she took stuff with her correct age. She had ID. She always knew how old she was. Always. She lived with family in Louisiana, they had birthday parties for her. She knew how old she was. She did go to school. She went to Catholic school. If you watch Prison Confessions and some of the other documentaries, there is video of her and pictures of her in a parochial school uniform. And if you're a Catholic, you never forget what one of those looks like. You know, right. a school uniform when you see it. Mm-hmm. That's not, so a lot of the stuff that's come out is there. We only have Gypsy side and we only have the Blanchard side. And to be fair, both sides, both of them have a reason, have a motive not to be 100% honest. If they're 100% honest, you know, what does that say about Rod as a human, as a person and as a father, right? So it's, what does he say? What's the story? I didn't have any idea any of this was going on. Right. That's why I'm frustrated. That's why I get annoyed. I'm like, and it's hard for me because people are starting to put it all together now, finally, right? After all these years. Y'all have no idea the rash of shit I took by saying the things that I said about Gypsy. But I didn't just say them to be an asshole. And I would show people, this is why I'm saying what I'm saying. Here's the actual proof of this. Here's actual proof of that. And it's weird for me that now everybody's starting to catch up to something that I've seen for a long time. And I do blame part of this, how she got to where she is the media's fault, because they were fed a narrative and they had information, if they would have looked, that was contrary to that narrative. But if you watch every documentary, every show, anything that they do on Gypsy, when they go to talk about the backstory, it is almost word for word exactly the same, every single outlet that does it. And that's a problem.
Right. So that goes into the ideas that perpetuate this kind of TMZification, right?
Yes.
So break that down. What is the idea that you're talking about that goes into that builds that up? What is the story that's being told, and what is the what's the word I'm looking
narrative.
Not the narrative, but the deception in that story.
Okay. So the idea is that Gypsy had to do all of this. She had to get involved with Nick. She had to recruit Nick. Her mother had to die. Her mother had to be murdered because it was Gypsy's only escape, because she was forced to undergo all kinds of surgeries that were unnecessary. That is the narrative. That is what's being pushed. That is not accurate. It's
so if you take that, sorry to interrupt you, but if you back that up and you take Gypsy Rose out of it, can anyone outside of a complete justified self-defense scenario, can anyone be backed into a murder like that?
Not the way that it happened with Gypsy. No.
Right. So that's what pisses me off, is you're absolutely right. The media first picked that idea up. She was pushed into it. Right. She was pushed into it. Let's keep that story going. And then Gypsy was like, yeah, I'll take it. And she perpetuated it, and now is continuing to carry that out to a very remunerative degree on social media post-release.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And when I was watching this interview on Morbids, and I was really struck by some of the things that Ken said about, like, for instance, there's a part where Morbid asked him, do you sleep with one eye open? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically just says, it just, the way Ken talked about it, just kind of, it identified the perpetuation of those ideas, like the excuse making, the minimizing, the rationalizing was really, really not just interesting, but sad to me.
It is sad.
Right? So let me show it to you, actually.
Okay.
I'm gonna,
yeah, because he's very flip about it. He acts as though this is an isolated incident, as if this is some sort of stand your ground scenario where your life is being threatened and it's you or them and you chose you.
Right.
And so therefore she doesn't actually possess the predilection to commit homicide. See, well, murder. I shouldn't say that, because homicide is just basically when one human takes another human's life. She doesn't possess the predilection for murder.
Yeah.
And because murder means something very specific. And so that to me is ridiculous. I would not be able to sleep with at all if Gypsy Rose were in my house. I would, because I'd have to have both eyes open and the doors locked. There's no way I would sleep next to her. Hell no.
Like when you have your eyes open to the type of person that she is, I wouldn't be able to live next door and sleep. Because
and I damn sure wouldn't take any food from her either. Yeah. She does know allegedly Dee Dee's recipe for cooking with Roundup. So if I were anybody in her family or her immediate circle, I would, if she cooks for you, don't eat it. Right.
Because you're talking about the kind of a mindset that could use any excuse, because you know what I'm saying? Because you see the any excuse scenario being played out on social media day after day after day after day. So, and so when you know that this same person who's using, apparently, and I haven't watched all of this play out, but apparently Gypsy has doxed people. She's engaged in her own set of problematic behaviors on social media against people that, have are her former friends. Right. And so why you're talking about an actual convicted murderer who's now on social media and you
who also use social media to troll.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like the internet troll. I mean like troll the action, the verb, for somebody to kill her mother. This is what's upsetting to me about this situation. I can't think of a single case in true crime history where one person essentially got a hitman and people said, well, the person that they had murdered was a terrible person, so they deserved it, and we're just going to give this 10 years. Frankly, in the scheme of things, in Gypsy's lifetime and all of it is a slap on the wrist. There are people who've done far less, who have not even committed violent crimes, who are in there for far longer.
Right. Absolutely. Let's play this and hear all the excuse making. Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully I picked the right timestamp.
Are you scared? Like, do you ever get scared or worried that outside of the
essentially, do you sleep with one eye open?
Like, are you
not
are
at
you
all?
fucking
Absolutely
scared?
not. Absolutely not.
He wouldn't say
Gypsy
if he was anyways.
One of the sweetest
Yeah, I know.
people I've ever met in my life, and she brings a lot.
What
to
is
my
So there's the first one, right? She's the sweetest person I ever met in my entire life.
Okay. I need to ask Ken some questions. First of all, how many people do you know in your life? Are we talking about the sweetest of 4? Are we talking about the sweetest of 10? Like, what's the number here? Because if you don't have very much experience with human beings, then this seems like, okay, maybe you just don't know any better, and I'm willing to give you a pass. But something tells me that you know quite a bit of people and you've met quite a bit of people, given that your vocation is bartending. Right. You've seen the worst in people. Stop playing Ken. You're being willfully ignorant. You are choosing to turn a blind eye.
Right.
But if you ever want to come and plead your case, please feel free to come up on my panel. I'll be respectful, but I'm not going to give you softball questions. I'm going to ask you the hard stuff, the end. But I'll be polite when I do it, and I'll probably make you laugh.
here's the other thing. So sometimes the sweetest person you ever met is the sweetest person you ever met because they have that other side that they are actively hiding. Okay.
Yeah.
That won't come out until shit goes down.
Exactly.
You don't know who that person really is until you have a conflict. You have no idea. Until you have a conflict, you have no idea who that person is.
Exactly. Okay? And so what kind of conflict? And he met her while she was in prison, right? What kind of, I mean, they could have argued 11 billion times on the phone. And what could Gypsy really do but slam the receiver down hard, which I actually miss. I miss the days of landlines when you could really just hang up on somebody and let them know. I mean, nobody can hear you pressing end call angrily. Like that's not a thing.
Anticlimactic, right?
Yes. Apple, if you're listening, we need some type of something that lets people know when the button to hang up is pushed in a very angry, quick fashion. Come on.
Right. Exactly.
So people know I'm not playing with you. I didn't just hang up because, in a nice way. I hung up in a huff, and I want you to know.
Okay. So that's the first chain we have to take away from our brains, okay, is that in this particular scenario, a person who you think is the sweetest person in the world is still a murderer who hasn't changed, who hasn't done anything to change,
who also doesn't acknowledge that she's a murderer.
Right. She sees herself only as a victim.
Correct. And continues to lie to the public at large and say that the state of Missouri doesn't have an accessory charge. Yes, they do. Oh. You were charged with first-degree murder because Missouri has what many states have, which is the principle law, the law of principles. And even if you are not the person wielding the weapon, you're not the person who actively took that person's life, but you participated in any way, shape, or form, you are charged equally culpable under the law, which is why your ass was charged with first-degree murder. Stop playing, Gypsy. Ugh.
This is a great test that Trinity says here. Hey, Lil Red, great test for people. Tell someone no and watch for the reaction. Exactly. Just say no. And that's now another thing that Ken doesn't say that you can read between the lines. And I know a lot of people get stuck with this idea. I was stuck with this idea in my younger years. Well, they did that to them, but they won't do it to me. No.
If they will do it with you, they will do it to you. And that is a law for life. So if you are caught up in a group chat and you talking all the shit, the same people that are doing it with you will do it to you.
Yes, 100%. And it is so hard for people to wrap their minds around that idea. It is so hard. But okay, let's keep playing the clip.
Especially when you given the fact that it isn't as if this was some plan that was quick. It wasn't.
No.
Gypsy was working on Nick for 3, not 1, not 2, 3 years. And she had to pull a lot of emotional blackmail in order to finally get him to do it.
Jesus Christ.
Ugh. So sweet about her because we're trying to understand where you're coming from here because we don't get it.
Nobody is the sweetest person in the world.
I don't hate her personally. I just don't feel like she should be monetizing off of her mother's death.
Agreed.
Yeah, we don't.
I just want to say here that I appreciated that Morbid said that.
Yes.
He said that repeatedly in this stream, even though I think he sort of is an active contributor, as is all content creators.
Yeah, because it's a fine line.
Me included, right?
Me too. I can't say anything. I mean, I put out I've done it too.
Right. well, and this is the first time I've covered anything about Gypsy Rose. I'm just saying we're all, putting her name out here. We're all participating, right?
And it really doesn't matter whether it's negative or positive because she still gets clicks and views. If let's say nobody knew anything about Gypsy, right? And I went over to my channel and I started talking about it, right? And the only people in chat were people who truly supported me, but didn't know anything about Gypsy. Their natural human inclination is, let me go check out this dumpster fire.
Right. And that is a natural human, like you say, inclination. Also, it is the way social media is designed, right? Mm-hmm. So people are going to do that. It's the way it is. As much as I'm not going to be talking about that here.
No, because we know how that goes, don't we?
I'm not going to get secretly in trouble again. And So anyway, but the top of that grifting pyramid is Gypsy. And that's why when I say who's to blame for TMZ'ing the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard, I'm saying the very peak of that pyramid is Gypsy. 1,100%. That's my opinion, because she's the one who started it all and is continuing to really grotesquely grift off of it, in my opinion.
Yeah,
but
you have to give it up to Gypsy because in a really messed up way. Because so it's my opinion, and this is where I've based my opinion. When you watch her interrogation video, and you have to watch all of it really to get it. If you just try to go to go to the parts where she's speaking to the actual detective from Missouri, you're not going to get the full picture. You really have to watch, and you can go watch it on Crime for Dummies. She's a great channel. I know her. She's a cool chick. And she has it where it's, the lulls where nobody's talking or she's sleeping are sped up. So, but you need to really watch it from beginning to end to really get the full picture. But and this is where my opinion is based. It's based on things that Gypsy has said in documents from the case. When you watch that interrogation, Gypsy never talks about her mother being abusive to her. In fact, the first thing that she does is explain away how it is on her hospital band, because they took her to the hospital because she's in Wisconsin and they're under the belief that she's sick. This is what the people reporting her missing have told the police.
Right. Yeah.
So they take her to the hospital. They take her to the emergency room. They get her checked out. She's got a hospital band. The date of birth on her hospital band is the correct date of birth. Now, how did they get that?
Right.
Okay. But here's Gypsy. That's the first lie. She explains that she's 19. When she gets out, she does another interview, and I clipped it, and it's in one of the recaps. She's sitting there and she's talking about people are like, she got so old. How'd she go from 19 to 33? Well, first of all, everybody ages, so stop that right now. But also, you were not 19 when you were arrested, Gypsy. You were 23. You were a month shy of being 24. Your birthday's at the end of July. You got arrested the 14th of June. Stop playing. You weren't 19. You were 23. And you know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. Stop it. But still, to this day, she still is perpetuating that she is confused about her age.
So she still does that whole gaslighting her age game?
Yes, it's few and far between with the age. But Lynn, I implore you, just on your own time, as a favor to me, go watch the episode 5 recap that I did. You don't even have to watch the whole thing. Watch. It's only 20 minutes, but if you don't want to watch the whole thing, fast forward to the part where the video from Gypsy's phone is played. And you will know, in the minute you watch it and hear it, you'll know exactly why I asked you to watch it.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk more.
I have no room. When someone is willing to be so deceptive about something so silly like that,
right,
you have to wonder why. This
is my theory. I think when she was in that interrogation room, her initial intention was to blame Nick. That she and Nick were an item, but that Nick was so infatuated with her that he killed her mom. And she does basically say as much. She never says a single negative word one about Dee Dee, ever. Fast forward. When she got arrested, there's a blogger, MJ Pack, who covered this from the very beginning. And people used to Facebook message MJ Pack, people from the area who knew Gypsy, knew Dee Dee, had dealings with them. Everybody, when they saw the arraignment on the news, when they saw that she could walk, a lot of people were quite shocked, but not everybody. There were other people who knew that she could walk, because when she left the house to be with Dan, she left sans wheelchair. She was walking. This is why I don't believe the dog leash story or a lot of the other stuff. Because when Gypsy relays what happened when they got back, when her mother came to Dan's house to pick her up, first of all, it took her mother, after realizing she was gone, 6 hours to go 20 minutes down the road. That's number one. Even though Gypsy claims that she was texting Dan from Dee Dee's phone. So how did it take 6 hours for her to locate Gypsy? Okay. That's number one. Or two. I don't even know. It's a long list. So Dee Dee goes and gets her, brings her back. It wasn't just Dan and Gypsy and Dee Dee at that house. There was a house full of witnesses who knew her from VisionCon, witnesses who were under the impression that she needed a wheelchair, witnesses who also thought she was younger than what she was. But then here's Gypsy. I'm not 15. I'm 19. Here's my ID. Showed it to him, right? So Dee Dee scoops her up. They come back to the house. Gypsy goes straight from that to right into, my mom chained me up. She tied me to the bed, beat me with the things, smashed my phone, smashed my laptop, all those things. Yet there's no story or of a conversation between Dee Dee and Gypsy about what the F do we do now. You have blown the grift. You were walking in front of people who didn't think that you could walk. That's wholly, completely left out of Gypsy's story. And she's told that story 11 billion times.
Right.
That's a big part of the story. What did your mom say about you walking in front of people? I would have asked that question.
See, and that's a much more logical, evidentiary explanation for why you don't believe that she was chained up, or you know what I mean?
Yes.
But when
Katie said, yeah.
But when Katie was talking about it, her explanation, like in a vacuum,
right,
didn't work for me. So I wasn't saying that I didn't believe Gypsy was because of that. I was saying,
no, I got totally what you were saying.
When someone disabuses some sort of evidentiary fact with a bad trauma reaction,
right,
or like with a bad take on how trauma reactions work,
right,
then you start to discredit all the other ways of talking about the case. You know what I mean? So just use the evidence and the facts to talk about those things, not bad takes on how trauma works.
Exactly.
That's how you muddy things. That's how we get these bad ideas about things. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And I think that's why I said I can understand people's inclination to give that pause hearing that story, right? But there are some things that human beings across the board sort of have reactions to trauma. But trauma is individual. You can have two people grow up in the same house who experience the exact same trauma, who will react and handle and process and move on with it later down the road very, very differently. People's trauma responses are individual to them.
Right. And right. I mean, there could be categories of responses, but people, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right. Like there's things like they say there are red flags.
Right.
Bedwetting in children is a red flag, synonymous with a specific type of abuse. But does that mean that every child who is abused in that way is a bedwetter? No. So does that mean that if your child isn't a bedwetter, but they're presenting other signs? You see what I'm saying? It's all individual. Yeah. And so I think when you have a big, huge platform like Katie Joy has, you do have a responsibility. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, Katie.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's keep playing this. Okay. Hear more excuses from Ken.
I don't hate her. We don't know her as a person.
I don't hate her.
I would love to try to get
to know.
I think that
she has a story to tell
as a person.
And I think that with her story has lessons.
How long is it going to? Sorry.
Wait, what did you say? Ken, go ahead. What were you saying?
I said that I forgot what I said. I got sidetracked by.
There's a story to tell.
Yeah, so she has a story to tell. She has lessons that can be learned from other people, and
so what is the story that she wants to tell all of us?
Why is it taking so long for her to tell it? She's already wrote a book. How many stories are there to tell?
I mean, I think that her story is just so incredibly unique, but also falls into a category of a lot of unheard cases of Munchausen by proxy, and I think that that she does have a position in possible advocacy work to help other victims of Munchausen by proxy get out of a situation that they're in.
What is she doing for that though right now?
Not a damn thing.
There's not a lot that she can do because she's under parole and she has a lot of stipulations against her.
See, this is all just complete hogwash to me.
Well, okay, Ken. See, let me ask you this then, Ken. If that is the case, then how come it is at the very beginning when she started coming out on social media, and let's talk about her social media for a moment, shall we? It isn't as if when Gypsy came out of prison and Ryan hands her that phone that she had to set up social media accounts. She already had them set up. They'd already been set up a long before she ever got out. So let's start there. Okay, so she already came on the scene with quite a bit of followers to begin with. Okay. But initially she said that she wanted to be an advocate. And you know what? The truth of the matter is the reason that she hasn't done any advocacy work is because the advocacy work that she wants to do, they don't want it filmed. Stop playing with people, Ken. That's why. Because she doesn't want to help. She wants to help and she wants to be filmed while she's helping. She doesn't want to help out of the goodness of her heart. She doesn't want to help because regardless, look at the last trip that they took to Disney World on Make-A-Wish's dime, you were plenty old enough to know you did not deserve that. And you robbed a very deserving child of a trip. And in my opinion, what you need to be doing is you need to be giving back to them. And you can start by donating some of your funds. It is a tax write-off, Gypsy. So, since you're making all of this money and you're worried about it going to taxes, there's you a tax shelter. You're welcome.
Right.
Oh, she makes me so angry, Lynn.
It's just the thing is that, the idea that she has a story to tell, she won't have a story to tell for many, many, many years, because what he's talking about, the kind of story that would be helpful to the world is an actual redemption story,
exactly.
An actual rehabilitation story, an actual story of, I actually did this to my mother, which requires accountability.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen no accountability, right? I've seen excuse making. It's everybody else's fault. She deserved it. All that type of stuff, right?
Right.
And then it requires actual change, a commitment to making an actual change to oneself. That takes years.
Exactly. Okay. Years and years, because what you have to do is you have to realize that your pattern, the way that you view the world, your thought pattern is wrong. So it takes a long time. So it's no different. Like, okay, so when people are, have an addiction to, like, for example, pain medication. Okay. And then they go on to abuse the pain medication. Because I don't really like to use the word addiction to pain medication, because just because of what it's made from, your body will become dependent on it.
It's a chemical addiction.
Yeah. And then it moves into abuse, when you stop taking it the right way, all those things, right? It's far easier to get over the physical symptoms of withdrawal and move past that. What's not easy to get past is addict's mentality. First, you have to recognize that you have it. Then when you start to, and you have to commit to it. So when you start to see, like, and it can be something really innocuous that has absolutely nothing to do with medication or anything else. It's something, a random, everyday life decision that you have to make, something very small. And you see, and you are thinking about how you're going to handle it. And you'll notice when you have you will catch yourself, oh shit, this is addict's mentality. And you got to, it's work. It's a choice that you make, and it's to change. And you have to live that change every single day. It's this, and but you have to, it can't change what you don't acknowledge, Gypsy.
Well, actually, think about it this way. And you talking about it this way actually kind of crystallized this for me. So a lot of addiction comes out of, a lot of chemical addiction to prescription medication comes from physical pain, chronic physical pain. Okay. So you get the prescription, you start taking the drug, then you get addicted to it, and you're in this endless cycle, right? Mm-hmm. So then you decide, I don't want to be addicted to this medication anymore. But guess what? That chronic pain is still going to be there.
Yep.
What are you going to do about it? Okay. So that you're in this kind of vicious cycle. This same thing exists for the reason that people get addicted or end up in toxic situations because of their own mental illness or emotional, underdevelopment, right? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times people get involved in bad situations, or they get addicted to alcohol or whatever. They start the addiction to alcohol or drugs because of emotional pain.
Right.
Then they decide, I don't want to be addicted to this thing anymore. So they get rid of it. But that emotional pain is still going to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to address it. And then all of the thought patterns and behaviors that existed before that helped perpetuate that cycle stay there. And I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I'm sorry if you keep hearing things like pounding on my computer. It's my dog's laying next to my computer right now, and he keeps batting it with his paw.
Well, don't worry about that, Lynn. Alice was up on the computer desk yesterday, standing and rubbing her face in the mic. So don't. Yeah, I mean, I can hear it, but it's not like I'm not one of the. It doesn't bother me. I'm not one of those.
Yeah, people. No, I'm just letting you and the audience know.
Animals come first always, and animals and children in my world.
Always. So there's a couple other timestamps that I pulled up for us to bounce off of, and so
while you do that, I'm going to finish what I was going to say. So about Gypsy and my theory. Okay. So initially she was going to blame the crime on Nick. She was going to say, this guy is so infatuated with me that he killed my mom and he took me to Wisconsin. Then what happened is she met with her attorney, Mike Stanfield. And I think she was keenly aware at that point of what was going on online. People were like, oh my God, they've been lying this whole time, and Gypsy wasn't actually sick. And, what did she know? What didn't she know? When did she know it? When didn't, all of those things. Mike Stanfield is an incredibly savvy attorney. And he understood that while the media can be a double-edged sword, in this case, he needed the media. He needed the media to perpetuate a story, which was that Dee Dee suffered from Munchausen syndrome, not suffered. Dee Dee had Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and Gypsy suffered as a result of that.
Right.
Simultaneously, he had something else going for him that is very rare in a criminal defense attorney's career, and that is an unsympathetic victim. People didn't really like Dee Dee.
That is unusual. Yeah.
People don't really like people who are thieves. And regardless of the way that you choose to steal the money, whether you outright rob a store or you're lying and scamming, it's all the same. It's all stealing. So people tend to not like those kind of people. Then you had a DA who was up for re-election, and you had Gypsy, who comes into court looking very meek, very mild, and she has that voice, and that is her voice, although she can exaggerate it when she wants to. We all can. It's not some unique trick to Gypsy. She's not like
I know we can. Yes.
Yeah, she's not like an X-Men or anything like that. She doesn't have any superpowers. She's just incredibly good at manipulating. Anyway, and I think that he took all the tools that he had at his disposal and was very savvy and negotiated a hell of a deal. And I don't think that Missouri, I personally think that had they continued the investigation, because they're at that time, while they were investigating Dee Dee's murder, they were also looking into the fraud. And I personally think had they been allowed to continue to prosecute her or investigate that fraud, I don't think the DA would have made the same choice. And I think if the DA were honest and said what he really thinks, I don't think he would make the same decision in 2024 that he made in 2015. I don't think he would have taken that plea deal. I don't think he would have allowed her to be in there for 10, give her 10, but she's got to serve 85%. I think she'd be exactly where Nick is, life without the possibility of parole, period.
Yeah. And I do hear it just seems odd that he's still there and she's not.
They offered Nick a deal. He was offered a couple of plea deals. This is the problem with what happened with Nick. Nick fundamentally did not trust his lawyers. And he was also, I think, confused by what the lawyers were telling him. Yeah. So the lawyers, I believe, were telling him they don't have you on first-degree murder because of your being on the spectrum. You cannot form the necessary deliberation under the law. And I think that Nick interpreted that as he's either going to take a plea deal or the jury will find him innocent, because he wasn't saying that he was not guilty completely. What he was saying really through his attorneys is, I'm not guilty of first-degree murder, and you didn't allow for any lesser included charges. It was the first degree or nothing. Yeah. So I think that's why he rejected those plea deals, but he was offered plea deals. He was. Right. But the other part of that equation is that while Mike Stanfield, they were going to be tried together. The first thing that Mike Stanfield did was motion to get their trials severed. Do you know what the first thing that Nick's attorneys did? Motion to keep the media out of the courtroom.
Right.
And so they advised Nick, and for a long time, Nick didn't speak to the media. It wasn't until right before his trial that he did. And so at that point, the damage was done. Gypsy had already had Mommy Dead and Dearest, and she'd already, I believe, done Gypsy's Revenge by the time, or it was shortly thereafter, by the time Nick went to trial. But Mommy Dead and Dearest, if you really watch it, while they did say some things, right, none of the things they said in there are like lies or anything, but it was definitely skewed, and it was all Gypsy's story. Well, that's because her victim is dead.
Right.
So we don't know what went on in that house. I suspect that there's a lot of exaggeration and flat out lies, frankly, about what went on in that house, truthfully. So that's just, and I've made my case for that in the documentaries with receipts. I don't just make it up. And I also am irritated, and this is the last rant I'm going to have until she plays this clip, because I'm sure Ken is going to say something that's going to enrage me again. but I'm really getting sick and tired of the emotional manipulation. Why do y'all hate her? You have to know somebody to hate them, Ken. Sit the fuck down. Okay. All that is bullshit, and it's emotional manipulation. I don't know Gypsy like that. She didn't do anything personally to me, but what I hate is what she did. The crime she committed. I'm anti-murder, period. Okay.
Well,
that's what I abhor. I'm tired of the emotional manipulation, but I will say this to you, Ken, you're quite good at it. Good luck to you in the future, because I think that Gypsy is going to run you for a fool, just like she did Ryan.
Absolutely. And this is, I'm not sure if this is the clip. If I have chosen the right timestamp, it's where he continues to make excuses for her. Let's just play it. We'll bounce off of it.
Okay, dokie.
No one should be monetizing or making money off of a tragedy such as your mother being unalived and you being a huge part of it. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, as a human,
I think that Gypsy has a story to tell, and she's just telling her story. It's not her fault that people want to hear it.
I hate that.
It's not her fault that people want to hear it.
I hate that. It's this whole, I'm a victim of, you're right. It is complete emotional manipulation to say, oh, they want to hear my story. You know, we all want to hear a lot of people's story, but not all those people respond to every single media request.
Right. There's a lot of people's stories that I would love to hear. And guess what, Nick, I'll give you a prime example. Nicole Kessinger. 11 billion people would love to hear Nicole Kessinger's story. She's been asked more than 11 billion times. Guess what? Nobody knows her story. You know why, Ken? Because she won't tell it.
And you know what?
Gypsy could have done the same thing. She could have gotten out. She could have been humble, served out the rest of her parole, and went on about her life. But she didn't. She wants this.
Yep.
She enjoys this. So don't say it's not her fault. It is her fault. She didn't have to open her mouth, period. She could have gotten out and not done any shows.
Exactly. And then, you know, and then they come out and they actively participate on a day by day basis. And then complain about the reaction.
Exactly.
Complain that people want to know, that people are interested, that other people are making money off of it. You said that you are the conductor of the train.
Exactly. Sir. If you want to get off the train, pull the stop cord and get off. All you have to do is shut up. It's that simple.
Here you are jumping on the panel of a 5,000 or 6,000 subscriber channel to react because one of her ex-friends is up there saying things that you didn't like.
Exactly. That is something that I want to address, because I think that this is also from other content creators. Katie Joy specifically said, I think it's weird that he got up on that channel. No, it's not, Katie. Stop playing. You know exactly why he got up on that channel. He got up on that channel because the ex-friend, it's not the ex-friend, it's the ex-friend's girlfriend is tagged in the title. And the reason that he's up there is because the allegation is that, and this is true, one of the stipulations, this happens to everybody who's on parole, you cannot associate with other felons, period. So another felon would obviously be somebody in prison. So calling them, emailing them, whatever it is that you're doing, taking phone calls, all those things would be against the conditions of your parole. And what he's trying to do is distract. What he did was stop what was going on dead in its tracks, because now everybody's focused on Ken and what does Ken think and what does Ken have to say and all of the things. That's why he's up there. It's not shocking. And by the way, Katie, I'd like to ask you and Fancy the exact same question. You both have had evidence, you've had conversations, actual, medical records, et cetera. You've talked, and Katie was friends with Christy, not really Gypsy so much. Christy's usually the main point of contact in all of this. But and especially Fancy. Fancy has had the medical records. She's had crime scene photos not released to the public, all manner of documents and stuff that come from Gypsy's discovery. Okay, nothing about the evidence has changed. The evidence is the evidence. What changed is your relationship with the family. Now you're not in a good place with the family, and now you've done 180-degree turn.
Right.
Now Gypsy is the devil. Gypsy hasn't changed either. She is the exact same person she was when you first started talking to her. And that is what annoys me. It's no different than when I see creators falling out with each other. And then what's the first thing they do? It's like there's a manual. Boom, here come the screenshots.
Yeah. It's just playing out on a much, much bigger level. That's all.
Exactly. It's no different. I mean, Gypsy isn't anything special. It isn't like these people, cozied up to say Jared Leto, who a lot of people have a lot of things to say about. It's not like they had some inside scoop on somebody who's super like hard to get into their inner circle or unattainable, right? And now all of a sudden they're telling their story about their time with, Jared Leto or something like that. It's not like that. These are just regular people from Louisiana who then moved to Missouri. They scammed. You know how many scammers there are? People that are scamming all kinds of things all the time, everywhere, all day long. And she ends up getting some other person essentially she pays for a hitman. That's exactly what she did. And they came there on Gypsy's dime, not on his. She paid for everything.
Yeah.
She hired a hitman. She got him to do what she wanted him to do. And then she dropped him in the grease when she was done. Period. It's not that complicated. It's really not. It's not that deep.
Right. And here we
Yes, Christy's dirty as fuck, crazy mama. That's why I won't have anything to do with her.
Okay, let's play this. Let's keep playing this.
Yes, let me keep my emotions in check. Let me go have a cigarette while you play this. That will help me.
It's okay, Jen. We're here for you. We're here for you.
I appreciate you letting me get it out. All right. I'm going to go have a cigarette while I listen. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Produce it, that people want to interview her about it. That is just the way the world is right now. They want to hear her story and she's there to tell it. And that's all that there is to say about that. Now,
so, there are many ways that the world is right now. That doesn't mean we have to be the way the world is. You see, that is such I think that's called the straw man fallacy. Well, it just is the way that everybody does it. So we're just going to go with the flow, even if it's the most evil fucking thing in the world. Even if we're going to complain about the response to it. Let's keep playing.
In terms of what you said about her being about the haters thing, when there are people who are deliberately trying to cause harm and hate and chaos into her life by calling her verbally abusive names and spreading horrible misinformation to defame her character, and I'm not talking about the crime. I'm talking about since forth, and just leave nasty, verbally abusive, horrific things in her comment sections that nobody would say to another person in real life. That's what I'm talking about, hate. And now luckily on the plus side, whenever Gypsy encounters somebody in the real world, they come up to her, they have nothing but the nicest, literally 100%.
But you know how the world works. It's the same with celebrities, right?
It's like if you open yourself, I don't mean to interrupt, but if you open yourself up, it's the same way any of us on here. And I do have my name, my real name, and my photo and stuff like that. If you open yourself up on social media, you do open yourself up to critique, criticism. Not everyone's going to like you.
But that's what I'm saying. Like she is obviously letting it affect her.
And cyberbullying. When people think that it's fun.
So the issue here is that every single person who becomes a public figure goes through this growth period where they find out. I've gone through it. Many people have gone through it, where they find out that there are really, really, really shitty, abusive people out there who will say anything they possibly can to hurt you, to get a response from you. They will lie to you. They will trick you. They will find out what hurts you the most, and then they will intentionally say those things to you. And for some reason, Ken and, by proxy, I guess, Gypsy believes that they should be immune to that. They'll eventually learn, clearly the hard way, that they are not immune to that. But where I'm going with this is I'm still, throughout this entire conversation, seeing this absence of accountability, absence of understanding that when you put yourself out there, this was a choice that Gypsy made to monetize the cold-blooded murder of her mother, regardless of the circumstances. And here they are now complaining about the reaction to that. And then, further perpetuating it by participating in panel discussions that will then trigger another cycle of it, another wave of it. Because here I am responding to that, and I have no, for instance, I have no control over how people will respond to what I'm saying about this. I'm not going to sit here and say horrible, horrible, nasty things about Gypsy and her mother and Ken and all these people on this panel, because that's just who I am. But I have no control over how other people are. But I am broadcasting this information completely triggered by sparked by him going on panel and talking about this. They don't seem to understand where accountability lies for the origination of this process.
They have a hard time with cause and effect.
Yeah, exactly.
And correlating the two. Something that most of us learned a long, long time ago.
And I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
And the things that are said to Gypsy, while they are deplorable, and I in no way, shape, or form am agreeing, justifying, excusing any of those things. People say horrible things on the internet. That's just facts. Okay. The internet is not a safe space. It's not a warm place. It can be a fun place, but it can also be an incredibly cruel place to be. People say things on the internet they would never say to anybody's face or to anybody in their real life. And that's true. But then there are the people who don't give a rat's fat kneecap and would say all these things to people's faces. So those people exist as well. A lot of the things that people are angry about are the things that Gypsy herself has said, specifically referring to Nick and him being on the spectrum and calling him a special little snowflake.
Right. Yeah, they did. They actually did get into that later. I don't think I marked that timestamp, but they did get into that and saying, well, she's not been an angel. She's also been problematic. She has said terrible things about other people. She's doxed people. So it's not like she's, just sitting there as a wounded little wallflower.
Right. And it was just exactly. And at any point and at any time, they can stop it all by simply closing their public social media accounts. Right. They can delete them. They can make brand new ones that only people that they actually know in real life have access to, and then lock them down. It's not that complicated. But the fact of the matter is, you got to take the bitter with the sweet, Ken. You put yourself out here, you and Gypsy both. You decided to do this. And why? Because you wanted to make some money off of it. Okay, you did that. But when you did that, now that's the sweet. You got the money. Now you got to take the bitter. You're going to have to learn how to handle people's reactions to the things that come out of yours and Gypsy's mouths. Because not everything that comes out of the both of y'all's mouths is nice. I've watched, and I would argue conversely that you and Gypsy have been equally abusive on Gypsy's social media platform, specifically TikTok, in the things that you've said to Ken, like the TikTok live that you did Ryan, the TikTok live that you two jokers did where you're going through your refrigerator and making fun of Ryan and calling him a hoarder.
Right.
You think that was you are Mr. Steal Yo Girl. It doesn't matter that you had her first. The fact of the matter is you stopped playing with that toy. Ryan picked your toy up. And then when you saw that somebody else was playing with your toy, like the petulant 5-year-old, you went over and you scooped that toy right back up. That's exactly what you did. You did. And then to add insult to injury, you thought it was a good idea to haul your cookies over to social media and go live and talk the most shit. Stop it.
Yeah.
You were over in Ken's or in Ryan's live not that long ago, giving him roses, which is money in TikTok terms. So stop it. You play too. Look, you played the game. You want to play this. These are the rules. There are no rules, especially on TikTok. It's the wild, wild west over there. That place is lawless.
Hey, Tess Mac. No, we haven't addressed that specifically because we're not really, talking about all the latest in Gypsy Rose. We're basically bouncing off of the idea of, TMZ'ing the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard and some of the ideas surrounding that. We've talked through some of the recent scenarios, but I was going to ask you, Jen, do you think that her posting that wifey mango picture was a Ryan troll as well?
Oh, I haven't seen that. You'll have to show me that picture.
So there's a picture. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
Okay. Okay.
Actually, I think it's been making its way around. Gosh, my dog, he is just
don't you have like a lab mix? Is that what you have, Lynn?
I have a golden doodle. Yeah.
A golden doodle. That's right.
He's literally just laying here completely relaxed, totally and completely relaxed. But he keeps just lazily pawing my computer. Let me see if
I haven't seen it. I mean, she and Ken have been from the very beginning equally cruel. Now, I said from the very, 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 very beginning that that Ken is the new Dan because she's just as fixated on Ken as she was on Dan. And that Ryan is the new Nick. He was always a means to an end. She did not want to parole to her parents' house. She wanted to get her paws on her trust fund and thought she would have a better chance at doing that if she were married. And then Christy facilitated Ken and Gypsy getting back together. But that's the way that the fact of the matter is Gypsy and Ken started following each other on social media almost immediately. Why would this be wifey mango, but why is this a dig at Ryan? Oh, because of the wifey.
And also, so mango is like a lot of times people will use the size of fruit to indicate.
Oh, I see. So euphemism for male genitalia.
Well, and also mango is this. So mango would be the size of a baby at a certain
gestation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see.
So there's all these, things. So people are thinking, this was a troll, a Ryan troll.
I mean, it's possible. Look, one thing that I know about Gypsy is, and this is based on things that she has done. This is her own behavior. This is not me being a hater. Let me just make it very, very clear for people that are listening now and anybody that listens on the replay. What Gypsy does or does not do, her success, lack of success, whether she stays free or goes back to jail, will have zero impact on my life and my day to day. Nothing she does affects me one way or another, period. So I have no reason to be a hater or to hate her. Okay. But at the end of the day, she's doing things because she wants to get talked about. So instead of complaining, Ken, you're mispronouncing thank you. What you should be doing is saying thank you. This is what you wanted. This is what you asked for. And now you've gotten it. So say thank you. Be grateful.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now here's more of the same from Ken, but he also gets into, if I have the right tab pulled up, he also gets into all the things he's doing. And this is another notion that I hate, that now, you know, he paints himself as this fixer and protector and rescuer, right? That he is going to make everything right for her. So, you know, and thinking that by jumping up on this panel and, you know, creating more attention to this, like, I don't know if I would have paid as much attention to this if the news of this interview hadn't kind of gone sort of true crime viral. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So there you have it. So let's listen to this.
Okay.
Just, I'm not saying it right now.
Ken, you brought up Gypsy is getting hate everywhere on the internet. I just want, all right? Maybe you don't know, but I'm going to tell you. She's going to get that for the rest of her life.
I'm fully aware of that.
Okay.
And,
this is true crime.
My position,
no one forgets.
My position in this relationship is to try and keep her head above water, trying to keep her.
So that I hate that idea. So he has the power to keep her head above water.
Gypsy should be look.
And
Gypsy's a 33-year-old woman who's about to be a mother.
Yeah.
It's fine to, yes, you're supposed to lean on your partner. Like, true partnership is not 50-50. It's really more like sometimes 60-40, sometimes, 49-51. It always varies. It's never 100%. It's never split down the middle equally. That's not, because human beings don't work like that. But it is supposed to be a two-way street. It's supposed to be a give and take. So, but at the end of the day, you're supposed, in times of trouble and stress and turmoil and stuff, you should be able to lean on your partner. But it's not your partner's job to come and fix things for you. And this, spoiler alert, Ken, you getting up on panels is not going to fix shit. It's actually made it worse. Hopefully you've learned that lesson. But you're still welcome to come on mine and try.
Well, and the thing is I would bet any amount of money that Gypsy is completely bought into that idea, that that's his job. Right. And so
yes,
if things fail, what happens to Ken?
He's to blame, just like Ryan is to blame, just like
right.
Nick is to blame. And before right. Nick, it was Dee Dee.
Right. Right. So this is a massive setup for failure.
Correct. That's who Gypsy is as a person. She manipulates and sets up situations and people so that ultimately she has no culpability or responsibility. She can say, if you can, it's super evident in the conversations that she has with her family and with Ryan in the Life After Lockup series. She plays both ends against the middle. Right. And as far as the online stuff, I don't think that Gypsy has done anything directly, because that's not her MO. Mm-hmm. Her MO is to have, 3 or 4 or 5, 6 people in between her and whatever somebody is doing on the internet. Other
people to do it.
Exactly. And this is what I would imagine has happened. She's gone to her circle. I know she has one person that's on social media that she actually does directly speak to. And I think it's a bit like dry begging, how somebody can ask for something, but they don't come right out and ask for it. What she likely does is goes to this friend and cries and is upset about the comments that she's getting, and so just won't leave me alone. And if you say that enough to somebody who cares about you, their natural inclination is, well, how damn dare they? So all it takes is that person to tell 4 or 5 other people, et cetera, et cetera. You know how it works. And boom, whoever it is that is being the problem for Gypsy is getting doxxed. I mean, it's not that complicated. It's really not.
Right. Let's keep playing it.
Okay.
Healing and trying to keep her eyes forward, because that's all that we can do. We can't spend our entire day talking
eyes forward while he's on panel looking very much backwards, but let's keep going.
Right.
About the negativity, dwelling on the negativity, doom scrolling through negative content, because that's only going to hurt her mental health and her progression and ours as a couple and her family.
Has she thought about maybe not going about not going the influencer route and maybe doing something a little more?
Is the money too good? Is what she's asking.
Gypsy is doing Gypsy. She is putting out content.
She's never gonna.
No shit, Ken. Gypsy is doing Gypsy. That's her fucking motto for life. I do what I want.
Shouldn't we worry about that?
We should. We should. And frankly, given the fact that she used social media as part of her crime, and let's be clear, not only did she troll the internet looking for somebody to commit this crime for her, she then turned around and used that exact same social media to set the ball in motion for the guy that did commit the murder to get caught.
Wow.
She shouldn't be influenced. Influencer should not be in her vocabulary, because we see what she uses her influence for.
Right.
I mean, come on, Ken. Like, what? Listen, you are the worst PR person on the planet.
You know, part of the conversation was they were talking about that they hired a PR person, and they were saying, fire that PR person.
No PR person would ever, I don't know, ever advocate or not advocate, would ever say that what he's doing right now is a good idea. First of all, you're on a live panel. Anything can happen on a live panel. Okay. That's why everybody likes to watch lives. Okay. Not only that, but you're on a panel with people who you've come to this channel because what was supposed to happen that night is an exposure of what Gypsy does behind the scenes and how she's violated the conditions of her parole. Know where you're at, first of all, like know your audience. Okay. And then you're going to come up here and say some of the most asinine and ridiculous things I've ever heard come out of anybody's mouth. And I've been on YouTube and social media a long time. And I'm 47 years old. So for me to say that this is one of the most asinine things that I've ever heard in my life is really saying stuff, because I've seen some shit.
Well, Jen, I'm not sure if you know this, but I was once
I do know this.
a PR person for the tech industry stars, and yeah, no. Like so PR is much different now than it used to be, because PR does involve when you're a public figure, you're not just conducting media interviews, you're also participating on the social media spectrum, right?
Yes.
And the very, 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 it's not just a tactical conversation. It's not just where do I go? Who do I talk to? It's about how you conduct yourself as a human being.
Correct.
Okay? And so the first thing, I wouldn't take a client like Gypsy Rose, because it is clear on its face that she can't maintain an ounce of authenticity across one platform to another.
Correct.
It's one thing here and it's another thing there, and it's a constant nightmare. Now, some PR, people would openly welcome that challenge. I'm not one of those people.
Yeah, no. If I were running PR, I wouldn't touch Gypsy with a 10-foot pole at all. I'd be like, no, you are not worth the headache. Hell no. Because these are Gypsy is the type of person that will come to you and ask your advice You give her the advice, and then she will argue with your advice. Well, bitch, if you know so much, why are you asking me? Just go handle it.
Right. And I'll tell you, TestMax says they hired a fixer PR person from the research I did. The company they hired helps people revamp images. So
yes, it was a crisis PR for sure.
I've had those kinds of clients come to me, and I've never been a greedy person. Okay. I'm just going to say, I've never been one of those types of people who are like, all right, this person is helpless, but I'm going to take their money anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You have ethics.
Yeah. So I also don't like dealing with unnecessary chaos and drama. And this is just a recipe for chaos and drama. And, yes, I've been involved in chaos and drama online. I just didn't know what I was getting into before. So now I know, but you know what I'm saying? So anyway, so I would turn down this client, and the advice I would give them is get off of social media, turn off, like you were saying, Jen, earlier. Okay. Get off of social media, turn off all of your accounts, get an insane amount of help, change your entire persona, spend years doing that, and come back when you really have rehabilitated. Come back when there is a real redemption story to tell.
People love a redemption story.
Yeah, a real redemption story.
A real redemption story, not some contrived bullshit. Story. And for the love of Pete,
not in Adventures with Purpose, fake. You know what I mean?
Right. You know and for the love of Pete, Gypsy, whatever you do, stop lying. You are terrible at it. And you choose to lie in places where the lies are captured, as they say on, what is that movie? God dang it. It just was in my brain. The Sandlot. Forever.
Yeah.
The internet never forgets. And the internet is undefeated when it comes to people like you. You think they've made memes of you now? Keep playing.
Right. Yeah. And then, as AI continues to develop and get better, and oh my God, we have no idea what's coming to us.
We have no idea, except for maybe Skynet. If you watch the Terminator, that might very well be our future. Skynet.
Yeah. So Lady says, I found it odd that her lawyer is now her manager. So that is, I didn't know that. That is,
I didn't either.
But managers are oftentimes lawyers. And I don't know if they always a lawyer turns into a manager. That seems kind of sketchy to me. I agree, Delaney.
He's but not managing her very well if this is what's going on.
Yeah, no, exactly. If there's no real accountability, if there's no real change, it's a complete setup for failure. For anybody who tries to get involved with her. That's just all there is to it.
It's really basic. It's pretty basic. And if Lynn, will you do me a favor? You put that wifey shirt back up, that picture, because I forgot about something that I just thought about, and I want to say something about that. Pretty please.
Yeah, one moment. Okay.
All right. Now, on any other day, in any other grocery store, on any other person, this would be a completely innocuous, cute picture, right? But let's really look at what's going on in this picture. She has on her shirt the word wifey. Whose wifey are you, Gypsy? While you're currently pregnant with, I'm going to go with your story here, another man's child. You've posted this on social media, knowing how many followers you have in front of God and everybody. Also, Gypsy, did you happen to pay attention when you went and filed for divorce, what the laws around divorce are in Louisiana? So Louisiana is both a no fault and fault state. Ryan has you dead to rights on alimony, and you had the unmitigated gall to ask for adultery. You had the unmitigated gall to ask for alimony, for spousal support.
Oh my God.
You know the headache that you've brought to your child? Let me explain to you, because you don't seem to be grasping this because you think it's a fairy tale. I'm not judging you for there being overlap. I think that's not what the judgment is. The judgment is that not only was there overlap, but you seem bent on putting it in Ryan's face to remind him that there was overlap. Okay. But where you live, Ryan is going to be presumed to be the father of that child. Now, when you go to give birth, because your last name is Anderson, do you know what they're going to put on that bassinet as the identification for that baby? Baby Anderson. So now you're going to have to roll that around. Ken is going to be in that hospital room with you, looking down on that sweet, innocent baby who didn't have a say in any of this, while baby Anderson is the label that's put on the bassinet. Then you're going to have a paternity test. And only then, and it's not like they're going to rush this paternity test, okay? They're not going to rush to do this DNA like they rushed to do the DNA in your murder case. That's not how paternity tests work. They'll get to it when they get to it. But once that happens, then you're going to have to go through and petition the courts to get the baby's name changed from having the last name Anderson, because they're going to give the baby the married last name. Ryan will be presumed to be the father because they count back 300 days. So that's what you've really done. And you think that it's a good idea to rub this in the public's and, more importantly, your ex-husband's face. What did Ryan actually do that was so fucking bad? What did he really do? He talked to you on the phone, emailed you, all the things, sent you stuff, had a life prepared for you when you got out, right? You had clothes to wear. It isn't like because you know what your alternative would have been? Had you not been married and you didn't want to parole to Rod and Christy's house, your option would have been to parole to a halfway house. You ever been to a halfway house? Of course you haven't. You spoiled, entitled bitch. That's why I have an issue with you, because of the things that you do. You are cruel. What this picture, it's the picture with wifey. If she were just wearing a plain white t-shirt, this would be nothing. It wouldn't mean anything. It's the fact that you have wifey. You are a married woman. And this is what you're doing. You're rubbing this in your ex's face.
Right. Yeah.
Constantly.
So Katie Joy made a point a few times. I watched one of her streams. She said several times that that Gypsy is a sadistic person.
Sadistic, I think, might be a little too strong.
Okay.
What I would say is that she's cruel. She's a very cruel person. And I think that the dynamic that exists between Christy and Gypsy is that of chaos and drama. See, Christy, what happens is, according to Christy, this is Christy's version of events. Gypsy does things, and then Christy basically has to clean up the mess. But also, Christy doesn't like to be confrontational. She's very passive aggressive. And so that is their relationship. Mm-hmm. And so people do what works. And Gypsy, I think, does derive pleasure. You can see it in the clip in the last episode of Life After Lockup when they're sitting in that restaurant having breakfast. And Gypsy is grinning like the Grinch when he thought of the idea to steal Christmas from the Who's. When Mia and Christy are arguing. Gypsy loves that stuff. She's cruel. Sadistic I think that might be just a little bit too strong, because usually when I think of sadistic, I think of it in a different terms, but I mean, it might be apropos. I just think it's a little strong.
Right. I think of being sadistic as someone who gets pleasure out of causing pain in other people.
Yes. I think of it in a like forensic psychology kind of way, where it pertains to something true crimey, and because that's so ingrained because of all the things that I watch. But I mean, there is something. I mean, it's not like the most, I wouldn't say, oh my God, no, she's the sweetest person in the world. No, I would not say that. And by the way, Ken, if there's nothing wrong with Gypsy, what does she need rescuing from? And what does she need you to hold her head above water if she's the sweetest person in the whole wide world?
Right.
I mean,
so Tess Mack, I didn't, if you're asking me about Katie Joy, I didn't watch a stream of hers from last night, but I did watch a video she posted talking about how apparently there was a physical brawl between Gypsy and Christy.
Okay, let's think about this realistically, true crimers, because after all, that is, even though we are talking about a true crime case and we're talking about media's impact on it, at our base level, our true interest in what brought us all together is true crime. So let's true crime reason this out. Gypsy is infamous. She's been on every move that she made with regard to leaving Ryan, being with Ken, getting pregnant, all the nose job, all of those things. TMZ covered. This story about the police being at the house and what circumstances they were there for has been out now for an extreme amount of time in like internet time and TMZ time. Plenty of time for TMZ to vet this story, or any media outlet like TMZ, and they would have. You can actually FOIA a call for service at a specific address, and they will tell you if the police were dispatched out there and what the code was, why they were dispatched out there. Now, don't you all think if the police were out there and they were dispatched because of some brawl that occurred, whether it was a literal physical brawl or a bunch of arguing and neighbors got scared and called 911 because Gypsy's a whole murderer, either way, it's something that's very easy to vet. It's something that's very easy to prove. So no, I don't believe that happened. Not because I don't think Gypsy's capable of it, or that Christy's not capable of it, but because at this point it's been out so long that it's something that is, and so something that's so easy to vet that if there was a kernel of truth to it, it would have been on mainstream media already. Period.
So I have to admit that I was kind of giving half attention to that video as I was listening to it, but my impression from it was that that this had just recently happened. But are you saying that this is something that's been in the rumor mill for a while and
it's happened over the weekend?
Okay.
Like Friday, Saturday, somewhere in that time period. And I know that we're only on Tuesday.
Sometimes it takes a while for things to actually, for you to be able to actually gather those reports. You know what I'm saying? To FOIA those reports, though.
I mean,
yeah. So Tess Mack is saying it happened on Sunday night. So I'm not saying it did happen. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying it sounds like it was recent enough to where we may not have.
But don't you think that TMZ, if nothing else, would have at least reported on it? And no, none of them are. It's only on social media that it's circulating. Like TMZ isn't paying a lick of attention to it.
Well, the thing is,
but you know better than me, so I defer to you when it comes to this.
But then TMZ would have to know about it. How would they know about it? They would also have to get records, or they'd have to be tipped off about it, and they'd have to get. And usually TMZ, from what I've seen, they tend not to report on things without some sort of verifiable, evidence, right?
Okay, so
source proof.
Katie Joy's verifiable evidence is reliable neighbors. So wouldn't TMZ have the same, couldn't they do the same exact thing? Even if let's say that they heard about it and the first thing they did was send a FOIA request to see if there'd been a call to service. The next thing that they could do, it would be to reach out to the neighbors.
Yeah, I was listening to it thinking, well, if this is true, then there will be actual footage for us to see later.
Yeah.
I'm not believing this.
Here's where exactly. And this is why I have an issue with this, because long before it ever came out that she was pregnant or that she'd left Ryan, I had gotten the story about this huge argument that occurred between Ryan and Gypsy. It did make it to the show, but it's definitely not the story I was told. the story I was told was that Gypsy took the morning after pill, that Ryan wanted her to get pregnant and Gypsy didn't want to get pregnant. And so she talked to Mia. Mia took her to get the morning after pill. And then when she got back to the apartment and told Ryan about it, that Ryan blew up and that he was so angry, it scared her. And she went to her only place of safety, which was the bathroom. And that Christy sent, because between the two of them, Mia is closer in proximity to where Gypsy lives than Christy. So sent Mia to go get Christy. But in the meantime, her attorney, Mike Stanfield, knows all about this. And he's the one that's saying, okay, you need to get Gypsy out of there. Mia, you go get her. Now, I'm a mom, and not only am I a mom, I'm a mom of adult children. I'm a mom of daughters and sons. And I'm telling you right now, if I got a call like that, I would not send my older daughter to go bail out my younger daughter, or vice versa. Ryan is a big dude. And if you're that scared, then I would also say to make a police report. And this is where my problem comes in with that story, which we now know is a whole lie. But that story is what was floated on the internet. It was put out there. Gypsy even did interviews and talked to the media about it, that Ryan was verbally abusive, that he scared her, that he was controlling, that he was intimidating. And she recorded that altercation, and on episode 5, it was played, and it's not at all what she said it was. At all. It's the antithesis of that. In fact, she's angry at him because he isn't angry enough. This is my other problem with this. Mike Stanfield is an attorney, and he is a smart man. What an attorney who is dealing with a client who is on parole for a violent crime, what would you tell your client to do? Leave? Or would you tell your client, leave and make a police report? Because if nothing else, you have a paper trail. Because how does it work in the court system? Whoever has the best and most evidence is the one who wins, right? It's not that complicated. But he didn't advise her to do that for her own protection, for her own safety, especially given the fact that she does have a violent offense, that she has been convicted of a violent offense. And when it comes to those circumstances, who is going to be believed, the teacher or the felon? Let's be honest. It wouldn't matter whether it was a man or a woman, just the fact that one person is a felon who was in prison for participating in murder, and the other person is a teacher in the community, for fuck's sake. As an attorney, you don't advise your client to get a paper trail. That's how I knew when I heard the story was bullshit. Also, because it's Gypsy who was wanting to get pregnant. She did interviews in the very beginning talking about, I can't wait to have a baby, and we were at Walmart and I was getting stuff on the baby. And Ryan was the one over there talking about, whoa, slow your roll. You just got out. That's how I knew it was bullshit. So you have to be really careful when you hear these stories. You have to consider the source, and then listen to the story and use common sense and reasoning and practicality. None of that makes any sense.
Right. Yep. I'm down with it. We're breaking those shackles, Jen. I mean,
I could go live on my channel, right? I have a decent sized true crime channel, right? I could go live on my channel and I could feed into every single one of these salacious rumors. Instead, what do? No. Let's be reasonable. That probably didn't happen this way. It probably happened that way. And here's why.
Well, no, your channel would probably be bigger if you just
exactly. If I fed into it, if I did that, my channel would be much bigger. If I came out and floated all kinds of theories that don't make any sense in any realm of reality of what happened in that house and who was there and wasn't there and when they were there and all of those things, as has been done, if I were to do that, but what purpose does that serve? To me, it serves no purpose. I feel like my job as a content creator that is in true crime, the way that you honor the victim, which Dee Dee, I don't care what anybody says, she is the victim in this. She's the one who ended up dead.
Right.
The way that you honor the victim, the way that you honor the genre of true crime is you tell the truth.
Right.
Of what happened. What happened is bad and salacious enough. You don't have to lie and make stuff up. And that's why it irritates me. That's why I'm frustrated.
Yeah. I'm with you, girl. You know I am.
I've had enough, Lynn. I just had enough.
Me too.
I'm done.
Go to your window and say, I've had enough. And I'm not going to take it anymore.
Exactly right. I mean, what is the only other option I have is to go live on my channel and just start talking hellish shit about all the shit that's being talked, right? Naming names and doing all this, but that's not going to serve any purpose either. No. It might make me feel okay to get it off my chest in the moment, but I'm going to regret it because I have a sharp tongue. I know I do, which is why I reserve the sharp tongue for people who commit crimes, not other content creators or human beings.
You have a sharp tongue with self-restraint and sort of
sort
of ethics and morals that a lot of people, I think I'm convinced that a lot of people know of those ethics and morals that they just choose not to exercise them on social media because they don't have to.
Exactly. Because
channel,
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't know. It's an experiment, but we'll see. Thank you so much, Tess Mac. I'm going to play two more clips.
Okay.
And then we're going to go because I've kept you for a while and I kept the audience for a while. And and I also want to talk about, to the extent that we can, because we're not going to solve all these problems, but I am a very solution-oriented person. And I want us to think about how we as individuals can help this, can make things better. So let's hear this.
So, and there's two things I want to say. So going back to the whole Katie Joy thing, that is, Katie Joy was unfortunately a friend of hers that she confided in who turned on her because the relationship soured. That is also why Zora turned on her, because she couldn't talk to Zora anymore because apparently Zora has told her that she is an active addiction. And I am not throwing shade on that in any way.
Ken, there's
I
a
am
pattern
recovered
here,
addict
no?
myself. I know how it is. However, yeah, it is a pattern. It's a bad pattern of her.
There's a lot of people. There's Fancy Miss Ellie.
Yep.
There's Katie Joy. There's now Zora.
And there's other names too. And it's unfortunate that she trusts these people and confides.
So who's the common denominator?
I'm just saying that these people, they get information.
I thought that was hilarious.
I mean, he's not wrong though. Like, Ken, if you are in a room, if every room you're in is, and you're surrounded by assholes all the time, right? In all the rooms, chances are you're the asshole.
Well, and not only that, but Morbid accurately points out what is the common denominator, and then further on, and I won't keep playing it till we get there because there's other stuff in between, but eventually they also, Ken acknowledges, and they also all happen to be content creators. Bingo.
Exactly.
They all happen to be fucking content creators, but guess who else is a content creator?
Gypsy.
I'm sorry.
She creates her own. This is her creating her own content for her channel. Yeah. It works for both parties. Let's really be realistic about it. Does it suck? Sure. But at the end of the day, right? People are going to listen. People who might not have listened to Katie Joy before are going to listen to her now because now she's spilling the dirt on Gypsy.
This is the first time I ever listened to a full video of Katie Joy's.
Same.
100%.
100%. 100%. It's not that I'm not a fan of that type of content, because I am. I watch a ton of reality TV shows that aren't really reality, but you know what I mean. But I watch in my downtime. Do I keep up with true crime? Yes, but there are times when I need something that doesn't require me to really think. They're not incredibly cerebral shows. So, I love them. So it's not that I don't care for her for that type of content. I'm just not a super fan of hers. And that's okay. There are people that are not a fan of the way I do true crime. I'm not for everybody. I'm fine with that. I'm a grown up. I get it. But that is the common denominator. It benefits. The falling out doesn't actually hurt either one of them. They've all benefited from the falling out. And then other channels have benefited adjacently, covering both sides of the fallout.
Right.
And talking about it.
And when your friendship is based on content creation, the idea of friendship is immediately at the outset in conflict.
Correct.
Okay. You're going to be in conflict at some point.
Correct. If this is why I don't speak to you.
If your actual content is based on that friendship.
Correct.
Right? So for instance, you and me, Jen, right? We don't base our content on our friendship. We base our content on what on true crime, right? So we're not now going to go out and go talk about, oh, I just had a conversation with Jen Lou and she said this and she said that, blah, 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 right?
Right. Exactly.
That's when there would eventually, if our relationship was that way and we were all happy one day and then not the next day, then we would end up in a conflict, because if we're trying to get money on the idea of our friendship, we're going to be at a conflict at some point.
Right. When you capitalize off of a friendship with someone, it's not friendship at all. And the fact is, this is why I have been given Chrissy's number a long time ago. I don't want to use it. In fact, I never even clicked how the iPhone sends you somebody's contact, right? How you can share contacts. I never even opened it up. And I'm going to tell you why. I don't have anything that I need to hear from them, say to them, or anything else. I think that it is if I wanted to interview Gypsy, I would have her on my panel and I would interview her. If I needed to schedule the interview or talk about what we would talk about during the interview, give her an idea of things that I wanted to ask, I would email. I wouldn't have a personal conversation with her. And here's why. Because I really, truly, firmly believe that when you become involved like that personally, it's very hard not to become personally involved when you hear somebody's story. And then you lose your objectivity. And so at this point, there isn't anything personally that I need to hear from Gypsy or from Christy. And quite frankly, what I have seen from content creators who started out wanting to tell their story, then that evolved into them becoming friends or having a quote unquote friendship. And the person that their whole stance changes. Rather, they are almost incapable of hearing any type of dissent. They don't want their audience to ask tough questions or be critical. They switch from reporting the news or reporting on the story to defending the people in the story. And I just think I don't want to do that.
And then they become part of the story.
Correct. I don't want to become part of true crime.
Right.
Okay. I just want to report on it. I just want to talk about specific cases. And I would say to you guys before we get off of here, the one thing I would leave you guys with is this. When you're watching true crime, it doesn't matter where it comes from. It doesn't matter whether you watch it on YouTube or you watch it on 2020 or Dateline or anything like that. Remember that ultimately you should do your own research. That now in the age that we're living in, where information is at our fingertips constantly, if you're truly invested and really want to know about a case, a documentary, a news program is a good place to start, but it is not where you should finish. You should absolutely do your own research. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. The Preppy murder. Jennifer Levin, and now I cannot remember the kid that killed her. at the very beginning, Jennifer Levin was found in Central Park up against a tree, strangled. She looked like she had been essayed. She went from, in the course of not very long, from being portrayed as a victim in the media, then suddenly through discovery, through the discovery process, the defense got a hold of her journals, of her diary, and somebody accidentally on purpose leaked some of the contents of those diary entries to the media, and they were printed. And she was a young girl, 19, maybe 21. I think she was real young, 19, or she was over 18, but I think she could drink. So I think she's 21, 22, something like that. And she was confiding in her diary. She wrote her very most personal and private thoughts. She talked about people that she had sex with, stuff like that. And instead of people keeping in mind that she is a full human being, suddenly she went from being a potential SA victim and a murder victim for sure, to a wanted woman who maybe she asked for it. Maybe she led this guy on. And that is the power that the media has. So be very, very careful when you're watching the media and taking everything at face value. Don't, because they have an agenda. It's no different than when the media continues to report that Damien, Jesse, and Jason they went to speak to them and suspected immediately because they were Black. That's not true. It's part of the story, but it's not the whole story. It's a very small part.
So it's not just it's not just, doing your own research. It's also the ideas inside of your head while you're doing that research, right?
Yes.
So it's realizing that even though the media is saying, oh, look at this harlot. She was sleeping around and doing all this stuff. So what? Remember that we wouldn't know about this person if she hadn't shown up for us as a murder victim.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So these are the things we have to get around, the victim blaming mentality. Like, that's one of the big shackles that I'm going to have to, I'm thinking maybe I'm going to address that on August 13th. You know why?
Okay. Why?
Do you know what August 13th is?
Is that not the same day as Shanann?
Yes.
That's what
Victim blaming and Shanann Watts. I think that's going to be a topic on this channel.
That's a good topic. It really is.
Yeah. And so that's what I mean is,
people are acting as if Dee Dee deserved what she got. Let me just explain something to you. Even if Gypsy was telling the full gospel truth and every single thing that happened exactly the way that she said it, if those crimes that Dee Dee committed are not punishable and are not capital offenses. If Dee Dee had survived, right, if she hadn't have been murdered, and instead Gypsy had gone to the police and Dee Dee had been prosecuted for those crimes, she would not have been sentenced to death. Those aren't her crimes are not capital crimes. Ironically, probably what she would have gotten is a similar sentence to what Gypsy got, about 10 years. Maybe a little bit more because of the fraud. She didn't deserve what she got.
No one deserves to be to have murder for hire. I mean, come on, like, I'm sorry. That's, the only justifiable murder, murder is not even the right term. The only time you can, in a court of law, be justified in committing homicide is in provable self-defense.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And I just streamed an entire trial where a girl tried to say that she shot her
Ashley Benefield.
Yeah. In self-defense. And I wasn't grabbing it. I
wasn't either. I didn't believe her self-defense.
No,
I didn't believe her story.
Really divided on it. They were almost as divided as they were with Karen Reed. And those are the two big trials that kind of, made me come up with the idea of this channel. I had many ideas, you know, but this channel comes back to my original idea 4 years ago for a channel, which is to stop the ideas, to stop furthering, you know, generational trauma, and these ideas that come about further generational trauma because they perpetuate crime and abuse. So this last clip I'm going to show here is from when Gypsy Rose announced her pregnancy. And I don't care whether the pregnancy is legit or not. What I'm concerned about, what I had a big reaction to was one part of it, and I'll tell you what after she talks about it.
All right.
5. We're both very excited. This was not planned at all. It was completely unexpected. But we're both very excited to take on this new journey of parenthood and all of the things that I wished I could have had when I was little.
That was it. Okay. So I have to tell you all, I am beyond devastated and worried for this child. Okay. Because I know from experience that I did not really understand the level of impact my trauma had until I had kids. And whether she's pregnant now or not, or whether she clearly eventually is going to have kids. Okay. So when she has that child, whatever trauma she had, whether it be the conning trauma or the Munchausen's by proxy trauma, whatever the trauma was, since she has not addressed it, there's no indication that she's addressed it, that she's treated it, that there's any healing from that trauma. It's going to be played out again on her child or children. Okay? This is what I'm trying to help prevent.
She's put her child in the exact same space that she doesn't want, now says, according to Ken anyway, that she doesn't want to be in. She doesn't want to be in the spotlight. She doesn't want to be. And Ken, for the love of Pete, your girl is not famous. Okay. Famous denotes some type of talent or special skill. What you are dating is somebody who is infamous. They are very different meanings. And I suggest you look them up if you don't know. They're not that far apart in the dictionary. Google will help you.
And she continues to say a little bit more, and then I'll stop it, and then we'll keep talking.
Yeah, this is what you foisted onto your child.
Yeah.
Here I am getting emotional. I'm kind of sorry. I feel a shift in myself. I have experienced crazy mood swings. Like, poor Ken. If he breathes wrong, I am just like,
I don't think that's pregnancy. I think that's just you.
Tears. I'm like, I cannot listen to this stuff. I can't do it. It all led me to be who I am today. And
that's a good thing. Okay.
All led me to this moment right here, right now. And that's a blessing.
Basically, so what? My mom was murdered. I got what I wanted. I got my man, and now I got a kid. Who cares? It was all worth it in the end.
I am absolutely devastated for this child.
That's usually what you say at the end of like an actual struggle. Like, I overcame, I hurt my back and I was prescribed pain medication. And I learned, that one of the really unfortunate side effects of taking pain medication is not only does it heal your physical pain, but it also numbs your emotional pain. So 2 birds, 1 stone. And hey, if 1 pain pill is good, 2 are better, and 3 is the best. And I'm sorry that I had to go through that, but everything has led me to this point now. I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm recovered, and I'm a support system for people who are going through the same thing. That's not this story. Okay, Gypsy, like that's very different. And, but she thinks that they are the same. That's what's scary.
She's playing out, she's faking, she's LARPing a redemption story that hasn't happened.
Correct.
And people buy it. People buy it because they believe, so many people believe social media.
And they've been told, people don't understand. They would, if you ask them, well, why wouldn't, if they had access to her medical records, why wouldn't they correct the narrative? Well, what medical records were they given access to? See, if you're the person who controls the information, i.e. the medical records, right? Wouldn't it be beneficial to you? Wouldn't the thing to do be to give the medical records that prove what you're trying to say and keep the medical records that disprove what you're trying to say away? You hand over the good, you keep the bad. I mean, come on. And let me ask you guys this, and this is what I really want you, I want everybody who's listening to think about, okay? If all of this horrible murder is predicated on Dee Dee having Munchausen syndrome by proxy and Gypsy truly being subjected to countless medical procedures, surgeries, etc., unnecessarily, right? How come it is in all of these years we have not seen one actual medical record? We've been read a few, but have you seen anything? She denied that she had a chromosome disorder when it came out. Denied, denied, denied. Then she's acknowledged it somewhat, in some way, shape, or form that she has it. Well, which is it? Were you lying then when you were denying it, or are you lying now when you're confirming it? Because either way, you're a liar. And that's what makes everything suspect. It doesn't mean that she's lied about everything. But at the core of the story is the medical records. And not one single documentary has actually shown a medical record. Not one.
Wow.
They talk about them. They might read parts from them, like they read, that Dee Dee had requested her child's medical records. And they did. Dr. Flasterstein had some issues, but that was one of he was at the end of all of this.
Right.
And I'm not saying this because I'm mean or I'm just trying to be anti-Gypsy. I'm not anti-Gypsy. I'm pro the truth.
Yeah.
That's it. No,
clearly. And that's another thing that, I want us to break free of is condemning people whole cloth. No, we're condemning actions. We're condemning specific behaviors.
Right. Gypsy can, if she wanted to. If she wanted to, she could absolutely change. If she wanted to. Yeah. If she wanted to break the cycle.
But she has to acknowledge that there's a need to change. And I don't even.
Correct.
And there's no indication that that's even there.
Correct.
Right.
She has to acknowledge that.
And as long as she's being puffed up by people.
And exactly.
She's not going to see. So I've been around a lot of extraordinarily wealthy people. Okay.
Right.
They get to a point where they don't believe they need anything or anybody in any way, because they believe that the sign of all success and well-being is your financial success. But it's not.
It's not, because it could go any minute.
And then they wonder why they're miserable and they get a divorce and their kids don't like them and, all that other shit. And it's because they haven't done anything to change their horrible, horrible personality.
Right. And this is the irony of all of this, Lynn. If she were to come out, right, and just from this moment on say, look, I lied, just tell the whole truth. Not just come out with it. You don't need anybody. You don't have to go to a 2020. You don't have to go to a Dateline. You don't need any of that. You have TikTok and you have YouTube. All you got to do is create a StreamYard account, Gypsy, and you can stream to every single one of your platforms, except for TikTok doesn't play well with others. So whatever. But all your other platforms, you can go to StreamYard and stream simultaneously to each and every one of those platforms. And you could tell 100% the absolute honest truth about all of it. Even admitting the times that you were less than honest, even admitting the times that you were lied. And guess what? You could even say, you know what? Not only was I in that room when Nicholas was stabbing my mom, I was cheering him on and telling him where to do it, and nothing could happen to you. You cannot face a single solitary legal ramification from admitting that. Nothing. But let me tell you, if you don't, and I'm not saying that you were there, I don't know, I wasn't there. It's just an example of one of of something that you could come clean about. Human beings have an amazing capacity for forgiveness. And if you took that and you were honest about all of the things, right? And then you worked on yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't do it for you, at least do it for that baby.
Yeah.
Break the cycle for your child.
That's what I'm saying.
That's your job as a mother. I'm one mother to another. Your sole job and responsibility is whatever happened to you, whatever trauma you went through, whatever bad things happened to you, it ends with you, and it's nothing, and it isn't put on your child. Your child doesn't carry that torch to the next generation. You stop it with you. And the only way that you're ever going to be able to do that is if you get honest with yourself. It doesn't matter how many people, all 12 million of your followers could tell you every single day that your mom deserved it or you're doing the right thing. You know, you cannot fool yourself. You cannot hide from your own brain. You cannot lie to your own brain. I mean, there is a level of deniability, but at the end of the day, most people can't make enough deniability where they don't really know what's going on. You know the truth. You know what you need to work on. Just work on it. Nothing else matters at this moment. You have a life inside of you that is 100% dependent on you.
Well, before I really got into like a serious treatment, that one that really addressed the issues that I had, I was so off base in my thinking. I had no fucking clue what was wrong with me. None. All I knew is that, oh yeah, I had this trauma as a child and then I became an alcoholic. I had no idea what the connections were. None whatsoever. I didn't understand how warped my thinking was. I just knew that I felt like shit all the time.
Yeah.
I just knew that I felt like shit. I was always angry. I was always down on myself. I was always feeling anxious. I was, I knew that I felt bad. And then when my kids came, I knew that I was acting short-tempered when they were toddlers, and that, and that I was starting to have flashbacks, and I noticed all those things. So it was my number one priority for them not to feel the way I felt when they got older. I didn't know how that was going to happen. I just knew I didn't want them to feel the way I felt. And I was primarily, if not like just at least 50% responsible for that. You know what I mean? At the very
exactly.
Responsible for that. So that's why I got help. But there's a very real scenario where she has no clue what her impact is, but she does know that she can't continue in this way and expect to have a healthy child with a healthy outlook.
Right. I mean, at the bare minimum, right? Let's say everything that she says happened. It's 100% gospel truth. Wouldn't you, just as because it is generational. And this is another, and she does know about this. There are people in her family on her mother's side who do think that Emma, while Emma may not, which would have been Gypsy's grandmother, Dee Dee's mother, may not have had Munchausen syndrome by proxy, she was definitely a helicopter parent, right? And I think that Dee Dee, that was her model. That was her model as when she became a mother. And Dee Dee, if you believe every single thing that Gypsy says, Dee Dee not only was a helicopter mom, a smother, if you will, but then she took it like 75 extra steps. So just thinking about it in those terms, Gypsy, wouldn't you just at that point want to do a mental health checklist? So if nothing else, you can talk to somebody who can maybe help you identify early warning signs of that. Because I would imagine that some of the early warning signs of maybe you have thinking that's somewhat similar to your grandmother and your mom's is intrusive thoughts surrounding the health of your baby. Every mother worries when they bring their newborn home that for no reason at all, the baby is all of a sudden going to stop breathing. Every mother has that fear, right? And I don't like to use the word normal because normal is very relative, but most mothers, the way that they cope with that is to constantly go in and they check on the baby and they check on the baby. And over time, the more they check on the baby and the more they say that that's not going to happen. And the older the baby gets, that fear starts to abate. An extreme version of reaction to that would be to bring your baby to the doctor and want the baby to be on a breathing monitor, right? And escalate it from there. So maybe, if nothing else, at least talk to your therapist about signs that could be red flags so that you can address them ahead of time, if nothing else.
If nothing else, or just beyond that, mental illness doesn't necessarily get passed down as the exact same mental illness. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And also when it's based on trauma, it concentrates and it gets worse if it doesn't get treated. If the cycle isn't broken, it'll get worse in the next generation.
Right.
So, like you say, the grandmother might have had like a light form of Munchausen's, and then it developed into a greater form of Munchausen's, maybe by Dee Dee. And then, maybe it could develop into an even worse form of Munchausen's by Gypsy. Like,
or
or it could just develop into just a much more horrible, toxic personality disorder.
Right. I mean, like, and I'm not even saying Munchausen's. What I'm saying is, there is I forget what it's called, but it happens. It's part of like postpartum depression. It's synonymous with that. It's not postpartum psychosis, but it's where you have, it's almost like postpartum OCD, where the obsessive compulsive and intrusive thoughts revolve solely around your child and their health and well-being. You constantly, you fret more than average, and the thoughts are all consuming, and they are always the worst case scenario.
And you don't know how to handle it.
And you don't know how to handle it. And I mean, we're all on some level, just because like postpartum, a lot of what's the issue there is the hormones and stuff. But just because that in your familial history, there is that history, it would be in your best interest and in your child's best interest to keep in contact on a regular basis with a therapist to sort of keep you in check and to just, be a safety net for you. And my other suggestion would be, if you think that social media is critical of you now, and this is the sad part of social media. This part really hurts my heart. But there's an element of social media, the mom groups, and there's an element of mom shaming that goes on that is unlike anything I've ever witnessed. I frankly disagree with it. I think that we should be, just as women in general, trying to build each other up. We moms, particularly, I think, are incredibly hard on ourselves. We definitely don't need to, we feel guilt for things that we probably shouldn't even feel guilty for, because it comes with the territory of being a mom. But if you think you're getting shamed now, if you think you're getting a rash of shit now, keep putting your experience with your pregnancy and then your childbirth and then the raising of your child, keep exposing that child, exposing all of that to social media.
There's no reason to believe she's not going to pimp that baby out. And that's a horrible way to put it, but that she's not going to put that baby on social media.
This is the thing. You can say whatever you want, Gypsy, but you're not going to exploit your child. But the bottom line is that ship has sailed. It is at the bottom of the ocean with the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. The first picture of your, and the mango. The first picture of your child is on social media.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Do you have any thoughts on Snap Ginger's question about Rod, the dad, and the role he played?
I think that there is an element to Rod that I think Gypsy inherited, which is to passively make it appear as if other people are making the decisions for you, and therefore you can stand back and not take accountability. I think that Christy has taken an unreasonable rash of shit, as if she is the person that's to blame for Gypsy and Rod not having a relationship, that she prevented Rod from seeing Gypsy, that she didn't want Rod to have a relationship with Gypsy, and the only time she did was when it became what it is now. At the end of the day, it is my opinion, and I feel very strongly about this, that Rod's loyalty, first, foremost, and always should be to his children. And because his oldest child is Gypsy, it should have been to her first. And it's my opinion that it wouldn't matter what person came into my life, how much I loved them. I would never, ever, ever choose another human being over my child. So at the end of the day, really, the true person to blame for the lack of relationship between Gypsy and Rod is not Christy. It is Rod. I would have put my foot down and I would have said, I will see my child. I don't care what you say. I don't care how mad you get. Don't marry me, whatever. But she is my child and I am going to be there for her. I will visit her. I will contact her. I will do all of those things. He made a decision. Sometimes, doing nothing is also an action.
Yeah, exactly. One of my favorite quotes used to be from damn, I'm forgetting the band's name. I can't believe it. But when you choose not to decide, you still haven't made a choice. And that's like, inaction is also action.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Doing nothing is actually doing something.
Yeah.
And it is a choice. And he had a choice and he made his choice.
Yep. Well, we're now going on 3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And you have been just amazing. So
thank you. You've been amazing. It's easy to talk to you, Lynn. You're a good hostess. I appreciate coming over here. I'm sorry I got a little ragey, you guys, but she just. Oh, no.
But no, it's well deserved here, and in this scenario and so many scenarios, and I think we have talked through several ideas and solutions, in terms of what we can do. We can constantly examine our own as we are looking at the facts and not just taking things at face value, right?
Right.
We can examine our own ideas about what we're seeing.
Right.
And not just assume that the that the that Dee Dee is should be victim blamed when she's the victim. That and not just take whole cloth that this girl who's sitting there with millions and millions and millions of followers is still Dee Dee's victim. That's literally what they're selling to us.
Exactly.
That she's still Dee Dee's victim. Okay. And that the murdered person is still the victim of the girl who's out here grifting on that murder.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. And I'm going to say something, and just then I'll be quiet and we'll get out of here. But listen to what Gypsy says. Gypsy tells on herself all the time. Thing about the truth is, the truth, when you tell the truth, it never changes. Never. And I'm not talking about, you remembering over time and adding, like I would, where you couldn't remember what your outfit was. You remember, you all of a sudden, after talking about so many times, you remember what you were wearing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the details of the actual story. And they do change. And they have changed many times.
Yeah. Yep.
Many times.
Absolutely. So, people, I think a lot of people on the internet, they don't want to have to think, and that's understandable.
Right.
They don't want to have to think. But in the true crime setting, you need to, if you're going to be a responsible true crime citizen and you're going to talk in chats and you want the world to be a better place in the future and prevent future victims of this sort, we all must examine the things that we are saying to other people in chats, the information that we're passing on, the things that we believe, and the accountability that we're placing, where we are placing the accountability. In this scenario, the accountability is squarely on Gypsy Rose, but she will never admit that. And there are many people. No, it wasn't Pink Floyd. It was Geddy Lee was the singer. I can remember the singer's name. I can't that's my brain, you guys. This is my
Hold on, I'll look it up for you right now.
Geddy Lee's the singer. I can't believe can't remember the band's name. I can't believe it. I can hear the sounds of his voice in my head. Getty Lee, Geddy Lee. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
Rush?
Yes, Rush. I can't believe I can't remember that. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. Woo!
Oh yeah.
Canadian.
I should have known it right when you said if you would have sang it, I would have known it. I would have been like, oh, that's Rush.
Well, I'm not monetized, so I can't get a copyright ding. It won't be bad if I get one. So I loved that band. I love singing their songs. So anyway, Jen Lou, I can't thank you enough. You and Alex specifically have always been so supportive of my channel reinventions.
Oh, you're so welcome.
And you're so, I always like talking to you guys because you aren't going to try to hype wrong information. You're about the actual true crime. You want to talk about the true crime, not about all the salacious bullshit. Or if we're going to talk about the salacious bullshit, we're going to put the truth around it. Right.
Right. And exactly. I don't want to focus. True crime is dramatic enough just on its face. Right. You don't have to make it more dramatic. You have a true care for the victim. You're truly protecting the victim in that scenario. None of these other people who are not adhering to the truth in true crime are doing they're re-victimizing victims. I agree.
This is so much. And so, sometimes I think when I hear descriptions of people with autism, sometimes I think I might actually have grown up with a touch of it, because I'm really, I've been very literal. I was very, very literal and gullible growing up, and I was that way. I would just take people at face value all the time, and I'm definitely not that way anymore. So maybe I don't know if that's something that people with autism can change. I'm not that way anymore. But
I think your experience, I think your experiences shape you, right? So if you get, and it takes, maybe some people, it takes more time. I think for me personally, I feel like I was born with a side eye. I have always been skeptical. I've always been one of those people that is just like, and I might not always say something, but when I'm listening to a story that somebody is telling me, I'm processing it in my brain, and I'm reading through not just what they're saying, right? But what their body language is, all of it. And I don't know where that comes from or what made me like that, because you can't be like that from birth. I mean, you haven't, it's not an experience that shaped, if you're born that way, experience didn't cause that. Something must have happened to me at some point that I don't remember, or that in the moment didn't seem like a big deal to me, but it definitely left an impression that, changed me and made me realize that, or just be skeptical of people. And it's not that I'm so good at it. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's, I was a kid once. I was a young girl once. I have been, people have snuck under my radar. I think the difference for me is that when people sneak under my radar, rather than be mad at the person that snuck under the radar, I get mad at myself. And I'm like, how did this asshole get past my radar? And how can I strengthen my security? And that's, maybe that's why. I don't know. I don't know why I am the way that I am. I only know, I know some of the reasons why I am the way that I am, but that side eye, I've always had it. Because I remember being a kid and my mom saying, stop mean mugging people. Stop it. Why are you, you're just like a little, tiny little 2-year-old girl in the grocery, in the grocery store in the cart. And you're just like surveying everybody, like you're putting them together. And I don't know why I'm that way.
Yeah. Maybe consider it a gift. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe, I have been told that I'm an empath.
It took me a long time too. I was like, oh, why? I don't need to even trust anybody. So I'm just going to take, you know what I mean? I had that attitude. Like, it doesn't even matter if I don't need to trust anybody. I don't even need anybody to trust them. So it's okay if I take them at face value.
No. I think I might be an empath. One of my very good friends is sensitive, and she tells me all the time, this is why it's hard for you on YouTube, because you are an empath. And so when you're around a bunch of bullshit, that's what, and I have to take breaks from it. I have to take breaks all the time from YouTube because it gets toxic for me and it makes me unable to be creative. And that is one thing that I like about myself, is that I am proud of it. I am creative. I can have some type of abstract concept in my brain, and I will work and work and work to make something, to take what's in my brain, a concept that's abstract, that doesn't actually have something visual to it, and make it visual. And I do think I am proud of that in myself. I don't know where I got it from. I just know that I've always had it. I've always been on the artistic side. I've always liked to make things, create things. And so that's why I like YouTube, because I can do that. But I'm an Aquarius. So I am also very, it takes me a long time to make an opinion, because I like to gather up all of the evidence and make an informed decision, right? So, but once I have made that opinion, once my opinion has been formed, it is very difficult for me to change my mind. So if somebody, and I have learned over the years, this is also life experience too, that when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time. It doesn't mean they can't be there's no redemption, they can't change. But don't touch the stove over and over and over and keep getting burned and then get pissed at the stove for being hot. Recognize that stove is hot and walk away. Then if the stove decides to cool off and not be hot anymore, then it's fine to touch. Same thing with human beings. When they act a fool and they continue to show you just what kind of fool they are, it's fine for you to walk away. They can change, but you don't have to be there observing and being their, punching bag during their changing process. They're either going to change with or without you. You might as well not put yourself through the headache and let it be without you.
Exactly. Well, that's a boundary issue too. A lot of people think that they actually have the ability to change other people, and they don't. But check this out. This is
look at Rod. What's up, Rod?
This is literally just uploaded 2 minutes ago from Without a Crystal Ball.
All right, I'm going to listen, but I'm going to go smoke a cigarette. I just need to. I'll be right back.
Her title says Gypsy Rose Blanchard fakes miscarriage to avoid parole revocation.
Oh my God. Here we go. All right. Hit it, Lynn. I can't wait to hear this.
That I left Christy, been staying in a hotel for a week. So none of that stuff is true. I'm home. I'm in home. I've never left Christy. I don't intend to leave her. I love her. I think she's great. She's been supportive of Gypsy from day one. And, after Katrina, they were relocated, so we didn't know where they were. Christy spent months online reaching out to Christy. We all wanted us to be best. Fine. I think she's good, right? Pretty sure. I don't think Ken would touch Christy with a 10. All good.
To defend his wife and to be a whole, I don't know. It was just weird. Yesterday, I told you about a fight that happened last week and that Christy and Gypsy have been fighting.
Our humanitarian focus is on the needs of civilians.
Well, I don't have pay shift. I don't have premium for this channel. So there's an ad playing, but you know what? She literally just uploaded this video. And it appears that she's going to take a while to get to the point. So I'm not going to try to play the entire thing. But let's just say that this is true. It fits that she has faked a miscarriage to avoid parole. It fits with her character, right? But we don't know. We don't know that this is true. It's another rumor from another content creator that has turned on Gypsy Rose, right? Yeah. Clearly, Tess. I mean, I know I had to really, it doesn't, I like my videos to get to the point, and then you guys can figure out whether we want to keep listening. But anyway, so it's her new video. I don't want to play it. Whatever. I don't want to have to wait to get to the point and then play the whole thing and then get a justified channel strike. So I'm not going to keep playing it. But I guess the implication is that she has faked a pregnancy to get out of a parole violation because she has talked to people in prison and she's not supposed to. So that's the gossip going around. Oh, okay. That's interesting, Jen. So I guess Rod, it's rare for Rod to come out and say things. So that's big. Okay. All right. Well, but as we know, we weren't here to talk about the day-to-day drama. We're here to talk about, the ideas about TMZ'ing this whole thing and how gross it is. And we're now 3.5 hours into the stream. So, and I've said goodbye like 3 different times. So thank you all for being here for my inaugural stream for this channel. Keep coming back. It works. Tess Mack is asking, do you think it's like to show us it's all good in the hood? Who knows? Probably that. I mean, it sounds like that's the tone he was taking. Don't believe anything on social media. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. So I'm going to play us out with my little intro video. Thanks, Chev. My intro outro video, and I will schedule another stream. I do definitely plan on August 16th to talk about Shanann Watts and the hyper victim blaming that happens on the internet and in the world, and the ideas around that and how can we change that. But in the meantime, I'm hunting around for my next trial to stream on disorder in the court. So please let me know if there's any specific trials you're looking forward to. I know I'm looking forward to a few different trials. So I will see you all on the tubes and hope that the rest of your day/evening goes very, very well. And I want to actually, let me real quickly here. I am sharing the channel. This is Jen Lou's channel that she just she joined panel with. Just so you know, there's her channel. All right. So thank you all for being here, and thank you very much to my wonderful, incredibly knowledgeable guest about Gypsy Rose. And I will see you all very soon on the tubes. Bye.